bespoke radio for the masses.
Headline edition, July 8, 1947. The Army Air Forces has announced that a flying disc has been found and is now in the possession of the Army.
If the game is rigged, change the game. Game changer.
I occasionally think how quickly our differences worldwide would vanish if we were facing an alien threat from outside this world.
This is Fade to Black with your host, Jimmy Church, on the Game Changer Radio Network and KGRA, the Global Radio Alliance.
I need your help to get to the year 1985.
You're listening to Fade to Black with Jimmy Church on the Game Changer Network.
All right. How you doing? How you doing? How you doing? This is Fade to Black. Bespoke radio for the masses. Today's Tuesday, January 19th. 19 days into the new year, 346 days left. We are live from downtown Burbank, California. Yeah, it's raining. I would like to welcome everybody listening all around the world, all across the United States, hither and thither, to and fro, back and forth, up and down, east and west, north and south, far and near. This is Fade to Black. For KJCR and the Game Changer Network, KGRA The Planet, and TalkNetwork.com. I'm your so humble host, Jimmy Church. What is cracking, everybody? Yeah. Feeling great. Can you tell? Can you tell? Nothing like some good supplements and a good night's rest. And tonight, we have a very special guest, Jason Martell from Ancient Aliens. Yes, he's here. Tomorrow night, Chris Medina, psychic, is going to be here, and he's going to tell us about the Bill Cooper connection. Oh, yeah. Been waiting for a solid Bill Cooper show. And we'll be doing that tomorrow night with Chris Medina. It's going to be one of those not-to-miss shows. You know, they're all not to miss, aren't they? Yeah, tonight, Jason Martell is here. It's always great when he's on the show because I relate to Jason. He's a very smart, intellectual guy, but he's also down to earth. And he's for real. And that's it. I just love having him on this show. And so we'll be doing that tonight. A lot of things to talk about with Jason. And we'll get to all of that in just a second. I do want to thank Life Change Tea for what they've done in working through this last couple of days. Because without that, I wouldn't be here right now. I feel great today. All right. So you can check them out right now. Go to getthetea.com. And I'm being serious. I feel amazing today. And there you go. And I will give Ronnie all the credit for that. Okay. Just go to the banner right now. Drop my name when you order their products. There's a couple of Fader Night specials right there on the website. Just drop my name when you call in or you order online. Just say Jimmy. You get yourself the Fader Night special, free shipping. Okay? It's official, by the way. Got my NAMM badge today. Yeah. Yeah, this Saturday. I'll be at the NAMM show. Excited. There's nothing like the NAMM show. I'll tell you a funny story. The first time I went to NAMM, the very first time, this was like probably 84, 85, 84. Wow, 30 years ago. And I had no idea. You hear about it, right? You hear about it, you read about it. All the musicians talking about, going to the NAMM show. So I go to my first NAMM show. And I walked in. I was with a company at that time, Moser Guitars. And I go in, I'm with a couple of other people, and I walk in the main room, and it is huge. First off, I had no idea, and I look around, the people, the noise, the cacophony. It was just guitars playing and this massive room, and I couldn't see to the other side. And I kind of freak, and I kind of hyperventilate a little bit. I really did. And I turned around for the two people that I was with, and they're gone. We got separated within a few steps. But there's so many people, and I would just and the room is starting to spin, and I'm hyperventilating, and I lose my mind for a few minutes. It was overwhelming. And then I looked for a place to sit, and there's no place to sit. And I'm a long-haired young rock and roll dude, and I freak. I panicked. It was amazing. And that's what the NAMM show is. You walk in, it's no matter how many, and I've been to 30, 40, 50 NAMM shows. I have no idea how many, if you include Nashville, Summer NAMM. And the first day of the NAMM show, when you walk in, you're amped up and you're just ready, because that's what it does. It's huge. So that's a true story. Yeah. Yeah, I literally panicked. And then after that, I'll just finish the story really quick. All I tried to do, because I got lost in the middle of the show floor, of which there are 4 like this, right? This is just one. And I'm just trying to get to a wall. That was my goal, to get through the maze and try to get to a wall so I could lean on it. That's a true story. And I made it to the wall. And somehow I found my friends, and then it was all good. Had a cold drink, and hit the ground running. And here we are today. NAMM show this Saturday. All right, Alien Snowfest. Jason Martell, who's on the show with us tonight, will be at Alien Snowfest this February 5th through the 7th up in Big Bear. George Norrie, Jason, Tom, Linda Moulton Howe, Stan Friedman, Micah Hanks, Mike Barrett, Chase Kletzky, Craig Campabasso, Marshall Klarfeld, Richard Dolan, and yours truly, all in one spot. Tonight, I'm going to give away some passes to Alien Snowfest. All right? So, that's it. No restrictions. Call in with Jason on the show tonight and ask Jason a good question. Get yourself some passes to Alien Snowfest this February 5th through the 7th. All tickets and information are over on their website. Just go to jimmychurchradio.com, click go, accommodations, hotels, everything is there. And then right after that, Jason will also be with me over at the Conscious Life Expo, which is February 19th through the 22nd at the LAX Hilton. And there at Conscious Life, I will be hosting the Ancient Aliens panel with Jason. So go now, get your tickets for the 14th annual Conscious Life Expo. It's going to be great. William Henry's going to be there. Serena Wright Taylor, Dean Ryan, Sean Stone, David Wilcock, of course, Norrie, and Linda Moulton Howe. Robert Perala is reported to be walking around at Conscious Life Expo. It's going to be great. So go. Jason will be attending both events with me. He is our guest tonight. Yes. Let's get the show cracking. Man, I feel good. I feel good. Makes me want to sing like James Brown. Let's get the show cracking. Today, Katie Seagal is 62. You know Katie. She played Peggy Bundy on Married with Children, but she probably, is more recognized today for, Sons of Anarchy. Kind of funny, huh? Or she did 3 episodes of that 70s show, and she slayed. Also today, comedian Paul Rodriguez is 61. Our dead guy's birthday today is the one and only, moment of silence, please, Janis Joplin. 1943 to 1970. That's right. Died at the age of 27. She was a true icon of 1960s psychedelic rock, even though she was more of a blues singer. She had that rough voice. She released 5 charted singles during her very short 4-year career, including Me and Bobby McGee, which I love. She was found dead at the Landmark Motor Hotel in Hollywood, California, which is still here, by the way. When you drive on, is that Franklin? Yeah, Franklin. It's right there on the right. I think it's called the International now or something like that. But that's where she died, and she was found by one of her road managers, John Cook. The strange thing is, if I don't know if you know this, but Janis, Jimi Hendrix, Kurt Cobain, Jim Morrison, all died at the age of 27. I find that bizarre. So, with that, follow me on Twitter at JChurchRadio. And let's light up Twitter right now. Favorite Joplin song. And I'm going to go right now. I'm gonna sneak mine in advance because it's a coin toss. I don't know. It's a coin toss between Mercedes-Benz and Bobby McGee. For me, it's a coin toss. Follow me on Twitter at JChurchRadio. Hashtag F2B is the sandbox. You can also follow us on Facebook and YouTube. Follow, like, subscribe. You can do everything over on our webpage. If you are on our little home page, landing page over at talknetwork.com, everything is there for you too as well. Twitter and Facebook should be right there. Also, the website. So follow, like, and subscribe. You know what to do. You can email throughout the show tonight, Jimmy at jimmychurchradio.com. If you have any questions for myself or Jason Martell during the show, just use hashtag F2BQ. That's Fade to Black Questions. Hashtag F2BQ. I will see it. What's that? Jimmy, congrats on your nationwide airtime. And that just came in. I didn't know thought I was always nationwide. Or, Captain, clarify, but yeah, cool. Thank you for, see, that just shows you. I have Twitter live. This is an interactive show. Tonight, Jason Martell is with us. Tomorrow night, Chris Medina and his Bill Cooper connection. You're going to find this interesting as to what I keep referring to, but it's good. And it's an interesting story. Tomorrow night, Chris Medina right here. On this day in history, big one too, 1993, Fleetwood Mac reunite to play Don't Stop at Bill Clinton's first inaugural gala. Yeah. Weird, huh? You think they would do that today? You think they have regrets? You never. It just reminds me of, what's the movie? It'll come to me. We'll get back to it. Fate or fact. The term junkie comes from the fact that recreational heroin users in the early 1900s would collect and sell scrap metal to pay for their heroin. I didn't know that because I thought that that's what meth heads did today, right? Am I wrong? Am I right? Is this thing on? Is this thing on? What goes wrong comes around, right? It's funny. What's old is new again. It's time for me to talk. I was looking at something today, and it just reminded me of how I've addressed these subjects on many shows in the past, and this list, which I've messed with it and changed it and modified it, but it's interesting how I think that other journalists out there and other people listen to this show, which is fine. That's great. But I was reading this article today, and it just reminded me I had to do this because we live in a different world today with the passing of Natalie Cole and Lemmy and David Bowie and yesterday Glenn Frey. I've just been in reflection mode for the last couple of weeks, going back and just thinking about what the 70s were. You know, it was a different time, the 60s, the 70s. And I'm not talking about as an adult. it was a different time, and I'm sure it was. I wasn't. In 1969, I was 6. Okay? 1970, I'm 7 years old. But I lived it. And so I came of age in the 70s, certainly. Because by 1977, 1978, midstream through the disco era, I'm a young man. You know, I'm 15 years old, 16 years old. So that's me. Those are my memories. The 80s, that's a whole nother story. That's a book in itself. But the times have changed. And so I compiled the list. The 8 things we did that you would never get away with today. Ever. Okay? Number 8. Skipping sunscreen. Now, before you laugh, I want you to think about that. In the 70s, sunscreen kind of became a fad. But in my family, sunscreen was for rich kids. There was no sunscreen in my house. Didn't know what it was. That was a luxury. That was beyond. If I had a towel when I went to the beach, I was feeling pretty good. Okay? Let alone flip-flops or sunscreen or sunglasses. Nah, we didn't experience that. And sunscreen was out. Sunburns were in. And that's what we did. We wanted to see who peeled the most. Thinking about that today, you would never. As a parent, you would probably go to jail if you were caught not putting sunscreen on your kids at the beach. It's child abuse, right? How about getting your parents to drop you off at the mall? Remember that? 9 years old, 10 years old, 11 years old. That's what your parents did. That was their babysitter, was driving you to the mall with your best friend or friends and dropping you off. And you went to the arcade, you did your thing, and you were there all day long. And your mom just dropped you off at 9 o'clock and said, okay, I'll see you here at 5 p.m. right here curbside. And your mom drove away. And you were like, yeah. And you ran into the mall and you didn't come out for 8 hours. Now, today, parents go to jail for that. Right? Am I wrong? That's what we did. Am I wrong? You would go to jail today. If you were caught dropping your 10-year-old kids off at the mall and splitting and coming back 8 hours later, you go to jail for a long time. You never see your kids again. That would be the last time you wave goodbye to your kids. That's it. If you want to get rid of your kids, that's what you do. How about, this is my number 6, smoking in general, just smoking. Smoking at dinner, smoking after dinner in a restaurant with your kids sitting at the table, right? Your parents just lighting up. Your parents smoking in a car. How about smoking in a plane? How about smoking at work? How about smoking everywhere? United Nations negotiations going on, peace treaties, ashtrays all over the table. Everybody just puffing. Johnny Carson on The Tonight Show. Remember Tom Snyder smoking? The other day, I was watching a very old replay of Merv Griffin, right? The Merv Griffin show. And Merv, right there, puffing, coming back after the commercial break, and was just talking about his next guest, ashing right there, ashtray, just puffing. Unbelievable. Okay, how about the one, my favorite, this should be my number 1, but it's my number 5. Letting us roam free all summer long. I talk about it all year long, all summer long, all year long. But today, parents are likely, seriously, to get reported to social services for letting their kids roam free, even if it's just to walk to school for a block. You go to jail. We all tell the stories. I walked for 20 miles in the snow up to my neck. But I did. I really did. 15 miles every day. Sometimes I walked home for lunch. 15 miles. Yeah, it's a trip. How about my number 4? Giving toddlers, because I remember this when I was a kid, cough syrup. Remember cough syrup? I had a neighbor. I watched her do this. I was like 5 years old, 6 years old. Grabbed a bottle of vodka, poured it like a little drop in a baby bottle. Yeah. I was like, really? Yeah. Now, hey, I'm just saying, that kind of stuff went on. Cough syrup. You would go to jail today. Don't get caught doing that. Can't do it. And then there's the honest to goodness driving without a seatbelt. Driving without a seatbelt. The station wagon. My parents had a station wagon. My parents had 5 kids. 5. Myself, my sister Carol, my brother Mike, my brother Danny, my sister Heather, piled in the back of that car, and we fought for the back window in the Oldsmobile Cutlass Sierra Land Cruiser wagon. That's right. Bouncing around in the back, 80 miles an hour on the freeway, throwing trash out of the back window. Yeah, you know what I'm talking about. It's insane. Go to jail. How about swimming without a lifeguard? Think about that. Just think about that. You would go to jail. You get caught swimming without a lifeguard, 5 years old, 6 years. I didn't know what a lifeguard was growing up. Never saw one. I didn't see a lifeguard until I came to Southern California. Lake Michigan, where I grew up, there was not a lifeguard. You looked left or right on that beach for 10 miles, and you didn't see anybody official. But we swam. I don't remember a lifeguard ever. My mom would be like, yeah, just don't go out that far. You'll be all right. I'll be at the house. Just no, don't go out. Don't swim out too far. That's how we handled it. And my number 1, and this is the craziest thing ever, except today I don't think I'd still do this. But riding a bike, roller skates, rollerblades, without a helmet. That's right. The things I did on a bicycle when I was a kid, when my parents weren't around, seriously, they'd still be in prison. Today, the things that we did, the bike ramps that we built out front, and we would do the Evel Knievel stuff. We'd build the bike ramp, and then we'd like lay down 3, 4, 5 of my buddies. They would lay down, and we would jump over them. Yeah. And how many times did we land on them? I don't know, a couple times a day. Got a little marked up. But that's what we did. Bent up handlebars, bent up rims, crashed every other jump. Crashed. Road rash, skin, face, eyes, back. You'd lay in bed at night just raw. But you would go to jail today if your kids were doing that. Think about it. You would never get away with any of this today. Are we too politically correct? I understand that the government wants to step in and make sure that we're all safe. But these intrusions into our lives, is it necessary? Is it really, really necessary? I think I grew up to be pretty good. I think all of you grew up to be pretty good. And we all got away with everything that I listed right now. Everything that I just said. You did it. All 8 of these. Don't tell me that you didn't, because that would be a lie. You would be lying. And we grew up just fine, didn't we? Everybody got through it. I would kill my daughters if they did any of these today. But it's true. And this is Fade to Black. Tonight, Jason Martell. Jason Martell is with it. It's always great when he's on the show. I'm in a great mood. And the downer couple of weeks that we've had here, not only on the show, but the audience and the world in general, losing some of our great icons. And I just lost sight of, when I'm thinking about this, Natalie, Lemmy, David, and Glenn in a couple of weeks? Really? Wow. It's just rough. So we just need to look back and remember that our childhood was a great time. It was a great time to be around with all of those artists with us, holding our hands. We had long summer days. Life was long. It was all good. And we had those artists to tell us that life was great and it was going to last forever. And that's what I'm talking about here. And I think about it today, and, our children today don't have these freedoms that I just expressed here that made us, you have to remember and think about what made things great. In the 70s, they were totally great. In the 60s, totally great. In the 80s, totally awesome time to grow up. And we had freedoms, and we didn't have that interference, not only from the government, but from our very own parents. And things looked wonderful. They looked bright, and we had a future. Today, kids can't do any of this stuff. Think about that for a second. All right. I'm off my soapbox. Tonight, Jason Martell. Tomorrow night, Chris Medina is going to be here. He's a psychic, and there's a connection to Bill Cooper. It's extraordinary. And throughout the night tonight, I will get to all of the news that you know nothing about. This is Fade to Black. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. Bespoke radio for the masses. That's right. On KGRA, The Planet, and TalkNetwork.com. Follow me on Twitter at JChurchRadio. Email is Jimmy@JimmyChurchRadio.com. Make it good. Get it past the producers. Let's do this. Man.
You're listening to Jimmy Church, Fade to Black.
Fade to Black will now pause for alien identification.
The station that talks the net. KGRA Radio. What's up, revolutionaries? It's me, Jimmy Church. Do you have an IRS or state tax issue? Well, I did, and I called national tax experts. My problems were fixed, done, fini, and man, I got to tell you, it was a relief. National Tax Experts are a recognized tax office that services clients in all 50 states. It doesn't matter where you live. Give them a call. I'm telling you, they take the time to understand each and every client's individual financial status as well as their financial goals. And that's exactly what you need, my brother, when you're taking on the evil three-letter. So, seriously. Give them a call today at 1-877-909-5444. Again, 1-877-909-5444. Or go check out their website, www.nattaxexperts.com. That's NATTAXEXPERTS.com. Tell them Jimmy sent you.
This is PlanetTalkNetwork.com.
9 out of 10 geneticists agree.
Fade to Black is not your father's radio show on the Game Changer Radio Network and KGRA, The Planet.
Hi, this is Chase Klutsky with Fate Magazine Radio, and you're listening to Jimmy Church and Fade to Black on the Game Changer Network and the KGRA digital broadcast station, where the Fader-Nauts rock.
Hi, this is Rob Reiner from Anvil, and you're listening to JimmyChurchRadio.com.
What's up? I'm Chris. What up? This is Kyle Massey, and you're listening to Jimmy Church Radio.
Welcome back to Fade to Black. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. KGRA, The Planet, TalkNetwork.com. Follow me on Twitter at JChurchRadio. Email is Jimmy at JimmyChurchRadio.com. YouTube, Fade to Black. Everything's JChurch, Fade to Black. Go find it. You can figure it out. Let's do this. For over 15 years, Mr. Jason Martell has been one of the leading researchers and lecturers specializing in ancient civilization technologies. Mr. Martell's research has been featured worldwide on numerous television and radio networks, such as the Discovery Channel, Sci-Fi Channel, and the BBC. He is currently a regular guest on the show Ancient Aliens, and he has been for, it's going on a decade, on the History Channel. His latest book is Knowledge Apocalypse, and it is available at Amazon.com. Today, Mr. Martell is in the planning stages of several groundbreaking international research expeditions. The expeditions focus on gaining access to ancient locations, ancient artifacts, and other archaeological relics not currently accessible to the public. By bringing worldwide attention to these hidden artifacts, Mr. Martell hopes to usher in a new era in the ancient astronaut theory and the lost cycle of time. We will be discussing all of this tonight. Expeditions are going to start in 2016. You can go to jasonmartell.com for further information there. Aside from his research and lectures, he is also the founder of Booyah Media, a successful mobile app company. Mr. Martell has founded several successful companies in the digital and mobile technology space over the last 10 years, and he continues to innovate in the technology space. His website is jasonmartell.com. I'd like to welcome back to Fade to Black, the one and only, and our good friend, Jason Martell. Jason, how are you, man?
Hey, Jimmy, I'm doing great. It's always an honor to be on your show. Thank you so much for having me back.
No, the honor is all mine. But, you know, when it's kind of weird saying that. Isn't it weird to say that because we're friends, but yet the honor is there? You know what I'm saying? It's yes. Cool. Thank you for that. You don't have to go there, but.
No, it's all due respect, my friend. I'm so proud of you and your reign as becoming the late night host or the dark night on the radio, man. You're doing a really good job. So seriously, thank you.
Well, you know what? Okay, I'm going to throw it right back at you. I'm going to throw you under the bus since you went there. Way back when I first started this show, you were like my third guest. And I called you up one day out of the blue. I got your number from somebody. I've never even shared that with you, by the way. And you pick up the phone. And I said, hey, man, I got this new radio show. And you were like, tell me about it. And I said, well, and you were like, you know what? You seem pretty, you know what? Yeah, I'll do it. and we've just, hit it off since then. But yeah, that's, and you were willing to take a chance on something, it's a long time ago now, but you didn't know me from anybody. And that's, thank you for that.
And in all fairness, Jimmy, in our first interview, we were pretty point blank with each other, meaning while I got a sense that you were on the level in our interview, you were a little bit more enthusiastic around topics that I don't usually explore in that type of a mind frame. And so if you remember, I think we have it somewhere on YouTube, you were, like attacking some of these ufology topics very aggressively. And I was like, well, hey, man, I don't agree with everything you're saying.
It was so much fun. And
yeah, it was.
It was, totally the innocence. And you know what? Let me say this, too. And this is for the audience. I want the audience to kind of share in a moment with Jason and I. About a year ago, well, it was certainly last year, over the summer, Jason and I, now I want the audience to just relax for a second and go into this zone with me. Jason and I, and our two wives, but our partners, were on the roof of a building in Beverly Hills, Hollywood, and we're laying on our backs, staring at the stars. And our two significant others are involved in the conversation, right? They're there, but Jason and I are lying there with martinis, staring at the stars, and just talking about history and things. And it was one of the coolest nights to be able to sit there, not worry about audiences, not worry about attitude, nothing. It was just you and I and a couple of martinis and the stars, right? And that conversation, Jason, you were like, and so was I, you were like a little kid. I was watching you, just stare out into space, and we just had this deep conversation. And you truly, truly, and I mean this, wonder about things. You do, and you question things. And I want the audience to understand that's who you are. When did this start for you? Did you always look out into the stars when you were a kid and just trip out and just wonder what the heck is going on?
Wow, you had to go right to that, huh?
Yeah.
Well, okay.
Yeah.
No, I appreciate that, Jimmy. And that's a great question. I'd also preface that, when we're looking at the stars with beautiful women, that's always a nice ambiance. There have been other ambiances we've shared, like when you're on the air and Contact in the Desert. And, myself, Giorgio, and Eric Von Daniken all stroll in to be like, well, what up? What do you want to talk about?
Right.
So good times. For me as a kid, Jimmy, I've always kind of had a fascination with, I was raised as a Christian, and so very strong Christian influence. I'd go out and speak to the wind or, the sky and ask for answers, and didn't really get them as a child. And circling back later in life, I'm very grateful to be on the path that I am, because I don't think anyone really has the answer around some of these more sensitive topics, combining spirituality, religion, as well as ufology now. But it's a fun path to be on at this age in life. And I'm glad that you and I share not only this quest to find the answers, but also the quest to enjoy life. So it's a balance on many levels.
The facts are today, Jason, is that even though I think we're getting closer and closer to the truth every day, we're also finding out that we know less and less, right? The mysteries of the past are expanding because we were told one set of dogma, right, growing up, that this is how things were. Mm-hmm. Now we have technology today, and now we know that we don't know a whole lot, but we're able to get closer to the truth. It's like this paradox. Is it frustrating?
It's actually kind of rewarding, to be honest. This paradox, as you put it, has existed for quite a while, that I think anybody interested in these topics will instantly recognize and be like, yup, which is the overwhelming interest by people who like shows like Ancient Aliens, or probably, your audience that, listen to you, just kind of know instinctively that these things that we're interested in, whether it be aliens, UFOs, ancient aliens, we kind of feel in our heart that they're true. But it's a difficult thing sometimes to communicate that to loved ones or in our peer groups, how to like really hit the points or like fire the bullets out of the gun to have them instantly be like, wow, I hear what you're saying. So what's really interesting is that the climate has been shifting, Jimmy, and that shows like Ancient Aliens and other things that are happening, even, yourself becoming, there's people that are picking up the torch and choosing to make this information more prominent. And I think it is definitely making a dent in our current society.
Do you think that you're helping attract that another generation? Because I feel the generation out that not only the millennials, but that missing generation, I think that they want the answers. And you and Giorgio and, myself to some degree, too, as well, and others are letting them know that it's okay to ask these questions, attend seminars, watch the programs, investigate the internet. It's okay to talk about this in the open.
Most definitely. I've been very grateful just in the time that I've been on Ancient Aliens, let's say in the last 8 years or so, that I have several nieces and nephews, in fact, 11. And some of my nieces and nephews in the ranges of 18 to 24, there have been several occasions over the last, few years where at Thanksgiving or some family gathering and some of their other friends are around, they all watch Ancient Aliens. These are all 18 to 24-year-old kids, mostly in college, high school. The climate is definitely shifting towards a newer, younger generation that has been born into an internet where they're literally born on, like as soon as they're come home, they're online, So it's just different today. And I think while having access to all the available choices, the ancient astronaut theory as one of the pieces to finding out who we are is definitely a key chess piece on the table where it wasn't 10 years ago.
Well, and here you are, you're sitting on, this is season 9 you guys are filming, right?
That's correct.
Season 9. Did you have any idea that you would be here doing season 9? The first season was 2008. We're in 2016, season 9. The success, the overwhelming success of Ancient Aliens. Did you guys have any idea when things were starting off that you would have this kind of influence and that it would grow into this worldwide thing that it is today?
Honestly, Jimmy, not at all. And to be, real insightful as to how I feel about it, I mean, I give a lot of credit to Giorgio, and I've known Giorgio many years, close to 10 years before Ancient Aliens was on the air. And, the circumstances have just changed. And I was in, and again, and I nod my head to Giorgio and thanks, and there's circumstances beyond our relationship on just Ancient Aliens where there's a history of camaraderie and working together. But I was in episode 1, season 1 with Giorgio, where we did the test. I did an on-camera test with Giorgio of the Baghdad battery, and talked about some other topics with Sumer and such. But I'm very grateful to have been, now I just last Thursday was reading for episode 110, season 9. So yeah, would I ever have guessed it'd get beyond like episode 2?
And
yeah.
I look back, I remember watching episode 1 when it aired that night. And that Baghdad battery sequence, which has turned into, it's almost legendary today. But I remember sitting there with Rita going, wait, rewind that, and watching it. And I think even Puma Punku was in that first episode.
Probably. Yeah, that's definitely one of the other milestones. Topics. And again, I give a big nod to Giorgio in that, before there was Ancient Aliens, there was Giorgio and I, but there was also Eric Von Daniken and another key figure named Zachariah Sitchin, who's no longer with us.
And of course, and Childress too as well.
Well, of course. I mean, I'm speaking from my perspective, Jimmy. I mean, there's many other key figures, but I guess my point is that the climate changed, meaning before Ancient Aliens, there was Zachariah Sitchin followers. Sitchinites is what they were called.
Right.
And then there were people who followed Eric Von Daniken, and usually kind of both. But Sitchin was he was more academic, more based on the words, more on the translations. Von Daniken, not so much academic, but very striking with visual evidence. And they kind of always rode in separate camps, even though they were on the same path. Those times changed once the torch was passed to Giorgio and I.
Yeah, you're right about that. And The other fascinating thing for me when we look at it in totality is today, and I talk about this often, is the conspiracy now with lost civilizations, lost history, ancient alien theory, Nibiru, Planet X. All of this kind of conspiracy is the wrong word, but it's a pop culture word today, right? So, and it's used loosely. But now it's okay for us to go to the conspiracy side of things, that Nibiru has been covered up and denied and lost history, and the Anunnaki and Sumerian tablets and the pyramids. And now we get to throw Göbekli Tepe into the mix, too, as well, where this lost history and this conspiracy side of things, culture now today, because of Ancient Aliens having a large part of this, it's now okay to look into the conspiracy side of things instead of just throwing it all out and going, nah, it's impossible. No, culture today is okay with the conspiracy side of things, and they want to learn and try to figure out what's really going on.
Well, Jimmy, I mean, 45 minutes before being on your show tonight, Taylor and I were enjoying a nice dinner watching Star Trek II Into Darkness, and the opening scene is on planet Nibiru. So it's obviously definitely penetrating popular culture even today, where the ancient astronaut theory has reached new heights of acceptance, where it's no longer needing to be challenged by the academics. It more or less needs to be challenged to them to say, can you refute this evidence, because of the fact of the growing amount of things around the world that are, as you said earlier, pushing the clock back further and further and just raising more questions.
Now, I was thinking, and you have made me think a lot over the last couple of years on a couple of things, and one of them is this: when we're talking about the precession, and we're talking about the wobble, and we're talking about 26,000 years, right? And if we push that back, this is where things get funky for me in the expansion of the mind. 26,000 years. It's one thing to use computers today, right, and plot and figure out a 26,000 year cycle. I get that. Okay. Even then, it gets a little bit difficult. But when you're going back into civilizations that obviously had issues with lenses or telescopes or the ability to look at the stars, certainly computers, or maybe they had them, we don't know. But to figure out a 26,000 year cycle back then was difficult, but yet they got it done. That is fact. We know that they knew about this.
Oh, Jimmy, I think you're doing this to me on purpose by saying the number 26,000 over and over. Maybe you don't know it, but let me answer a question that you're bringing up without even realizing it, and maybe you do. The standard understanding of the model for precession, yes, is around 26,000 years. Unfortunately, that's not what I base my cycle on for this lost cycle of time, to explain why we go into this dark age period and then back into the golden ages. And it seems to be a repeating cycle. Even Plato called it the great year,
right? That
many of the ancient cultures were aware of. Now, I take a slightly different approach to that 26,000 year number and say that it's around more like 24,000 years. And I'd love to explain why.
Okay, go for it. Well, okay, before you do, if they had that knowledge, and they had the ability to do that, what's wrong with bringing that into classrooms today and discussing that? You know what? Maybe we had civilizations that were much smarter than we give them credit for today, and let's talk about that. But they won't put that on the table. It'll never be in a textbook, and that's why I have issues. When I talk about the great conspiracy, that's one of them. They want to just sweep that under the rug and act like it didn't even happen when it did.
You're right. And I mean, I'm not going to go down that path in our discussion tonight, but basically anyone could go into the institutions at college in your area, or even your younger classrooms, high school and such, and see what publishers that are allowing to publish the materials, and then look into the ownership of the companies that are publishing those materials by those schools that are being accepted. And yeah, you can start to formulate things that I mean, anyone can have an opinion around these topics, right? But there is, like anyone, a background check that can be done from who are the companies publishing the books that are being used in the public schools. And yeah, you're right. It's fairly doctrinated information that has been fairly antiquated and outdated for, my goodness, now at least 4 decades.
Yes. And it's an outrage. Okay, let's go back to your
the lost cycle of time.
The 24,000 years. Okay, what'd you do with the extra 2,000?
Well, so it's simply this, and I'll give my good references of why I'm stating this fact. The current model of precession, which is a big topic, and we'll kind of ping pong around this tonight, but the current model of precession is to explain why all the ancients broke down the heavens into 12 divisible parts, 12 constellations, the 12 houses of the zodiac is what we call it. But essentially it was a big celestial clock, and they were able to know what time frame or what age they were in based on what constellation we were currently in view of the North Star, or like where we were currently pointing. And so essentially this 12 constellations of the heavens, our current understanding of that knowledge from all the ancients is, oh, wow, there's this thing called precession. And so we've come up with a current theory called the lunar solar theory to explain why we have precession. Meaning all the ancients were aware of precession, so we today are trying to figure it out, and our model contains it's like over 1,000 variables, Jimmy, and it contains, torsion and motion and all these things to explain why we have precession. It's basically there's pressure on our Earth, and so it elongates, and the orbit of our moon creates this little wobble, so that every 72 years we degrade by 1 degree, so that around 2,000 years, all of a sudden, we're pointing at a new North Star. Now, that's a very complicated model based on the fact that the sun is stagnant and that all the planets are just moving around the sun, Earth being one of them. There's a new, more efficient model based on a binary system, meaning all of the other solar systems, for the most part, that we photograph in space are binary. They have at least 2 suns, sometimes more. So there's a great deal of evidence to say that our solar system is in fact binary, but our second sun is now a brown dwarf or a dark star. But the idea that we're binary, it changes the whole idea of our solar system. If we're in a binary orbit, Jimmy, if our sun is in fact orbiting another sun, 2 suns, that means that our sun is physically moving through space. Now, since we orbit the sun, we're going along for the ride. And so the reason why we have a change in view every 2,000 years or so to a new constellation, a new age like Pisces, Aquarius, right? This happens simply because we are moving through space as our suns are in a binary orbit. And we can talk about this a little bit more, but it seems to coincide with what happens to be a rise and fall of civilizations here on Earth. We go through a dark age and a golden age, and it seems to have something to do with us being in a binary orbit.
Where is the other star?
Well, that's really the key question right now, Jimmy, is that likely candidates are, it could possibly be Sirius A and B, a nearby star system. And a lot of the ancients point to this as a source of life. It's a very close star system that might, as we have our own life around our sun, Sirius A and B might have planets with life around it. And we might share planets, possibly something like a Nibiru that orbits between its set of suns as well as ours. The whole idea of a Nibiru or Planet X cannot be explained by going into the depths of space on an elongated orbit without warping or looping around something else, our second sun. And so there's even encyclopedia references going back in the early 80s, citing the Pioneer and Galileo probes. And these diagrams in the encyclopedia show a 10th planet as well as a second sun. So these are concepts that have been floating around for many, many decades, Jimmy, but there is a new lineage of information, thankfully through the ancient astronaut lens, to look at this binary orbit, this new data, and I'm going to tell you who's calculating this research because it is available on the internet. But looking at the binary orbit allows us to look at the ancient cultures and see a pattern that's been developing. And so the further back we go and the more we find, instead of saying, scratch your head, well, how can this be? Putting it in the binary orbit answers some of these questions and saying that there's a rise and fall of civilizations. And we can kind of try and shed more light in that in tonight's discussion if there's time.
Is that an answer to some of the inconsistencies with Uranus and Saturn as well? Would a binary star system help explain, the gravitational differences there?
Well, so a lot of the data that I reference in my lectures, as far as looking at this binary orbit, is through a business partner of mine named Walter Cruttenden. Walter also puts on a conference every year called CPAC, which stands for Conference on Precession and Ancient Knowledge. And he's been doing these for about 12 years now. And, CPAC essentially allows Walter to hire the same people that are working at NASA or JPL or Goddard Space Center and freelance calculate a new model for this more accurate version of explaining precession, but based on a binary orbit. So he's got a website out there called, don't be surprised, Binary Research Institute, and it's located here in Newport Beach where we both live. And there is all of the public mathematical breakdowns of the orbits and the data where we've been, kind of crunching a lot of this. And I got to say, I'm kind of just on the coattails of Walter in that part of the research and crunching the science around it. But what I've been able to do is take a more deeper dive into the ancient cultures and seeing that for many, many generations, it seems that there is this rise and fall of civilizations. And it can explain a lot of the gaps where, as an example, if you go into the times of like Sumer and ancient Egypt and look at their understandings of astronomy, you see that they were very, very, had great knowledge and tracked the stars over hundreds of years. And then these cultures seem to diminish, and we get into more of the time of like Copernicus and Galileo, the Renaissance age, and there's this reflaring of knowledge after the Dark Ages. And they just then, at that point, are trying to re-explain like, hey, we orbit the sun, where now it's a re-accepted norm. So a lot of the things that were happening in our ancient past, it seems that we're just now starting to rediscover a lot of the deep, way in the past secrets or ancient knowledge that to us is a mystery now that we're just starting to tiptoe and learn was an accepted norm thousands and thousands of years ago.
That's a good spot to take a break. Tonight, Our guest is Jason Martell. This is Fade to Black. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. Yes, on KGRA, the Planet and Talk Network.com. Jason Martell, we've got a lot to discuss tonight. We'll get to it all right after this short break. Stay right there.
This is Fade to Black with Jimmy Church on the Game Changer Radio Network and KGRA, the Global Radio Alliance.
The station that talks the net. KGRA Radio.
Hello, I'm Peggy and you're listening to my main man, Jimmy Church, on jimmychurchradio.com.
Hi, this is Ray Hobbs here, repping the planet, and you're listening to my good friend, Jimmy Church, Fade to Black, on the Game Changer Network and the KGRA Digital Broadcast Station.
People love to shop. What if you could shop and it was actually good for you? What if you could actually purchase items that bettered your life? What goes into your body is important to what quality of life you have. How about shopping for items that better your health? GetTheT.com is that shopping place. We're not only tea, even though that's our #1 seller, we are about helping your health. There's Colostrum LD for those of you with autoimmune troubles. The product helps your stomach get on track. GI problems produce pain. Get relief with Colostrum LD. How about some fat burners? Or maybe some joint aid? Or a power cleanse? There's so much to tell you with very little time. So get help health-wise at GetTheT.com. That's GetTheT.com. Or you can call our friendly operators at 928-308-0408. That's 928-308-0408. Get help and relief by going shopping. Shop at GetTheT.com. That's GetTheT.com. Serving people with great products for over 8 years. GetTheT.com.
This is TalkNetwork.com.
Imagine no longer being tied down to your computer, but having the freedom to take live talk radio with you anywhere you go. TalkStream Live introduces our first ever iPhone application. The talk shows you follow now follow you. And your iPhone is now the fastest and easiest way to stay connected to the best talk radio on the internet. Let TalkStream Live transform the way you listen to radio. Listen to live talk shows 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Mobile talk radio from TalkStream Live. Now available in the iTunes App Store.
This is Toby Kebbell. You're listening to JimmyChurchRadio.com. Don't hurt me, Jimmy. I'm only little.
Hey, I'm Adrian Grenier. And this is Ari Gold. We're the Honey Brothers. We're of the Honey Brothers. Hey, I'm Adrian Grenier. And I'm Ari Gold. We're the Honey Brothers. And you're listening to Jimmy Church. The Revolution.
Hello, Fadernauts. Are you looking for the ultimate Bluetooth speaker system? Well, check this out. The Studio Dome surround sound system, featuring the Studio Dome 1 SD1 and the Studio Boombox SBB wireless Bluetooth speakers, is the perfect way to get surround sound without all of the cable headaches. With its own hard shell custom carrying case for taking your surround sound experience on the go. Each hard shell case comes packed with an SBB, 2 SD1s, cables, and power. It's just $99. And you use the promo code Jimmy, and you get yourself some free shipping. Once again, Studio Dome brings you the best deal on the net. Anywhere. Just go to the Studio Dome banner, JimmyChurchRadio.com, promo code Jimmy. Go Beckley Teppy.
This is Micah Hanks of the Gralien Report, and you're listening to Jimmy Church on Fade to Black, across the globe on the Game Changer Radio Network and the one and only KGRA Radio, The Planet.
All right, welcome back, Fade to Black. I'm your host, Jimmy Church, on KGRA, The Planet, and TalkNetwork.com. You can shoot me an email to Jimmy at JimmyChurchRadio.com. Any questions or comments during the show, I will get them. If you have any questions for Jason or myself tonight, hashtag F2BQ is the Twitterverse, and you can do that right there. Follow us on Twitter at JChurchRadio. Jason, I was looking here at what's going to happen tomorrow, which is Mercury, Venus, Mars, Jupiter, Saturn are all going to be visible in the morning sky. It hasn't happened since 2005. Are you going to be up tomorrow? Are you going to go check this out?
I am. I remember that happening, and actually Taylor was just telling me about that and reminding me that that's happening tomorrow night. And, I remember that in 2005, and there were people then predicting, oh, my God, the 5 planets are aligning in such a way they're going to cause a gravitational pull on Earth that are going to, something bad will happen. No. But it is always an interesting sight, at least. You can use any kind of an astronomy app on your iPad or iPhone, and it'll kind of tell you where the planets are and easily position yourself.
Can you imagine in ancient times when stuff like this would happen? Oh, man. You know, and if you knew that it was going to happen, you would, you were the smart guy on the block,
Well, look, you're right. No, you're hitting it nail on the head. I mean, I'm sure you saw, and many of your listeners saw Mel Gibson's Apocalypto.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and so many of those scenes there are symbolic in that the little priest with the painted face kind of knew exactly when the eclipse would occur. Right? They're like chopping off people's heads and they're rolling down the pyramid. But basically, at a key point there, he had the knowledge to know exactly when the eclipse would occur. And he looked at the king and said, okay, now you can stand up and do your little king thing. But it was sacred knowledge that they had, this astronomical knowledge where they passed down as sacred knowledge between the priests.
What did you think about, and then we're going to jump back into the show, but that Pepsi film about the Black Knight satellite that came out a couple of months ago? What did you think the message was for in that? Because it touched upon all the things that you and I talk about, right? All that fringe stuff, but it was right there for the masses. Pretty strange film for Pepsi to put out.
Yeah, it was. I mean, I'll break it down two ways, Jimmy. One was, on the high-level answer, was Pepsi choosing a good marketing partner, and it was a successful campaign. Looking a little deeper into it, I mean, someone a little closer to our topics of ufology and ancient astronaut theory put together an extremely well-executed marketing campaign that I think anybody close to these topics watches that video and your eyes tear up because you're like, yes, that's what I'm frickin' talking about.
Right.
So, I mean, that's, again, from a high level, they did a good job choosing a marketing partner that executed a video that was very well done. I think from, another level, it just speaks to our position as a society right now that strikes a nerve, meaning that type of video, we watch that and we're not going, huh? What? We're tearing up.
It's like they did our work for us. And the other thing is, this is how my brain works. Somebody was pitching this idea to Pepsi, right? Yep. And got them to say yes. And that I would have loved to have been a fly on the wall, because that's all the fringe topics. It's all right there in a row. And then Pepsi chose to, at the beginning of that, to say all of this is true right at the front of the video. So people that don't follow these topics or have never heard about Black Knight satellite, Pepsi puts this out and says, this is all factual. This is all true. Now check this out. And they accept that as factual.
Well, there's a lot of information, and the media and Ancient Aliens kind of being part of that outlet. I mean, it's something on your television, is definitely a way to teach people and to open their minds. And I mean, honestly, the Black Knight satellite is something that will probably, I'd say 90% chance will be covered in season 9 of Ancient Aliens. It's a very interesting topic. And things like that continue to pop up on the radar. I mean, one of the topics, I touched on with you briefly earlier, is China. I mean, China is, they're... I mean, China has this history since the Great Wall of secrecy, and now even up to this day of it's more the Great Firewall rather than the physical wall. But China has had this track record of isolationism, or something that they don't really expose their culture or their history beyond their borders. But penetrating their borders and looking in, there's been all kinds of stories of ufological things, from crash saucers and craft and abduction to all kinds of pyramids, and even more recently, sightings, significant sightings. I think I pushed a couple links to you there, but even recently in the last 5 years, there's been 3 or 4 significant sightings. I mean, picked up by CNN, ABC, Fox News, where large airports in China are shut down because there's a UFO hovering over the base or hovering over the public airport. And so this has happened at such a frequency with documented media coverage that the majority of the times they say, well, there's military activity tied to these sightings, so that we're not able to comment further.
It seems like, and especially over the last 6 months, the reports coming out of China were almost weekly. There was always something going on. I went and watched, and I was fascinated with this. I went and watched the Chinese news broadcast and the way that they dealt with the shutting down of the airport and the filming of these objects over the airport. And for them to have a reason to shut down the airport because of that is significant, number one. But number two, to report it publicly, and three, to have their mass media treat it in a fair and balanced manner. They simply said a UFO was spotted. Here it is, and we shut down the airport. That would never go down in the United States.
Yeah, not usually. I mean, not that openly. It could be a whole other topic as to how they're able to orchestrate not covering a lot of these sightings. But again, I'm still waiting to see a UFO hover over Wilshire Boulevard. So something like that on that level happening in China, I think, is quite significant. And a lot of the footage and things, as far as what we can find on YouTube, that is actually real in some of these things that have been covered again by major outlets, CNN, ABC News. It's kind of alarming to wonder where those crafts are coming from. And I seriously doubt that they're us.
Where is Ancient Aliens going to go to next? It's funny because we have the world of memes today, right? And Giorgio is like the most memed guy on the planet, right? And that's where we are with Ancient Aliens. And you're into the 9th season. Where are you guys going into other areas? And in this upcoming season, which direction are you guys taking things?
Well, it's pretty much looking at the same umbrella of ideas of trying to find evidence that supports the ancient astronaut theory. I think for season 9, there's going to be a few new topics that are more relevant in the last year or so. One of those will be China. China, again, is had a rich history of what appear to be large pyramidal structures that they are either covering up or have, for some reason or another, planted a bunch of trees and things to make them look more like a hillside.
Right.
But I think there's going to be some other revelations around, let's call it life on Mars and that search for life that, I don't know, 2016 could be a very interesting year. So as far as what I've seen so far, Ancient Aliens Season 9 is shipping up to be, really focused around finding some of these new locations and penetrating some of the borders and barriers that have been a little difficult to access up at this point.
We were talking earlier about Australia, and I think we have a large Australian audience. They just heard me say this right now. Did Jimmy just say Australia? And Australia, first off, is big. Number two, it's old. And there has been a lot of stuff going on out there. And we were talking about this earlier. Can you comment on what you guys are going to present in Ancient Aliens on this?
Well, it's not even so much as Ancient Aliens, but just in general, the idea that Australia, it has this rich history where some of the Aboriginal cultures literally go back 60,000 years. And so being able to have a documented, elderly record where they have these oral stories that they say go back 60,000 years and in stone, even in stone, as petroglyphs and wall reliefs, they have these stories documented that we've been able to, test that go back to at least 12,000 years, probably later, where this is probably one of the oldest civilizations explaining some of the origins of the planet. And it seems that Australia has a very deep history of UFO sightings in one area in particular called the Blue Mountains. And these areas are kind of infamous for having all kinds of petroglyphs and wall reliefs of these gods that seem to have been influencing these Aboriginal cultures for the last 60,000 years. They called their gods the Wanjinas. And Jimmy, I tell you what, if you Google Wanjinas or, Australian petroglyphs, the Wanjinas look like a modern-day alien. So it's very clear that a lot of our notions around history and the true history of our origins, when put to the test by looking at some of these cultures that are unfiltered, again, going back just, thousands of years, they seem to have similar stories of beings that all come down from the sky or have some notion of powers and things that are beyond what you would consider a human being to have.
And the Blue Mountains kind of have it all, too, because there are reports of a UFO base under the mountains. They have a long history of abductions, bizarre sightings there all the time. And it's not discussed in mainstream ufology, but the Blue Mountains with the Wajina, they kind of have it all.
They really do. Yeah, it's kind of like a petri dish for ufology. And since since Australia really isn't on our radar from a USA perspective, it doesn't really hit a lot of our news. But YouTube and other sources, there's definitely a consistent stream of sightings coming out of these regions. And why it makes it interesting from the ancient astronaut theory is that these sightings can clearly be tracked, again, at least 12,000 years based on the petroglyphs that we've dated all over the walls in these various caverns and mountainsides.
Yeah, they're fascinating, too. I'm looking at some of... You should see Twitter right now. It is just blown up. And somebody just brought up Mount Zeal, too, in Australia. And do you remember the famous scene in The Right Stuff? Yeah, when... they were monitoring the television signals from Australia, and I think it was Gemini, and orbiting the Earth. And as the Gemini capsule, they were going, what are you seeing right now? And he's like, well, it's like fireflies, and it was, all over the capsule. But the Aborigines in Australia were doing this shaman dance and were causing these sparks to fly up. And there was this connection with what was going on, I think it was Gemini, and whether the Aborigines were influencing what was going on at the capsule, or if they had a vision of what was going on in the capsule and they were recreating that on Earth. No matter what, the connection was there. And that's one of the other great mysteries of Australia. And if you want, go and watch The Right Stuff, and you'll see the exact scene that I'm talking about.
Yeah, it's a good visual for sure. And a picture is always worth 1,000 words, and that's why a lot of those petroglyphs are interesting.
When we look at the world, and I'm fascinated with what's going on every continent. It used to be, I used to think everything was going on in Giza, right? Everything was kind of like there, and a little bit in the United, but it's kind of evenly distributed, isn't it? The ancient alien theory and sightings are there. It's a global thing. It's not in one concentrated area.
Definitely.
Yeah. And
go ahead, Jim.
I was going to. Well, if you were to look at the world now and you could go anywhere and investigate, where would you go? Where do you think the concentration of evidence is today? Like I said, I'm leaning off of Giza. I'm kind of looking in other areas.
I tell you what, I'd lean off of Giza too, just because of its overall climate and political realm right now.
Yeah, right.
I often, some people ask me that, like, gosh, where would you want to go? And I have two ways of answering that. On a personal level, I'd say, wow, I want to go somewhere warm and tropical and comfy that might also have some artifacts and things we can look at. But, outside of my personal interests of just enjoying what, the Earth has to offer, and there's also a lot of exotic locations that seem to coincide with ancient sites like the Yucatan and a lot of sites in Peru and such. we have a wealth of sites outside of Egypt that need to be explored further. The problem is access, Jimmy. Give you an idea. Now, we talk about some of the sites that are very remote, like Easter Island, Rapa Nui. Everyone's heard of these Moai heads, the Easter Island heads. And we see a culture that thrived at one point and died off, but the evidence they left us seems to point to some lost ancient race that influenced them, even at the far reaches of the earth. So where I think the next evidence lies, Jimmy, is under the ice sheets. We got the North Pole, South Pole. Our current polar system is anchored the way it is, but you roll it back to the last time we were in the golden age, let's say 10, 13,000 years ago, the poles weren't where they are now. Antarctica, some of these regions might have been green at that time versus having a 2-mile ice sheet. So I think a lot of the things that we're going to, I think in the next 10 years with our technology through ground penetrating radar and such, we're going to be able to answer a lot of questions around looking at the past. And some of these continents, I think, are going to have the answer.
Do you think there's a reason why they won't let anybody go down to Antarctica? Do you think that they are hiding something down there that they've and maybe not necessarily uncovered, but they are aware of something that was there? It didn't take a million years to create that ice, right? It just didn't. It could have happened overnight. When we think about the mammoths, being frozen upright with a belly full of green grass, well, then there's the evidence of it can get really cold really quick and get really bad. And so it probably wasn't that long ago when Antarctica was green, and that they know this, and that there is something that they just don't want us to know down there.
Yeah, it's very likely. I'm sure that there's been a well-orchestrated plan of covering up anything to do with ufological information or some mysterious artifact. And I'm sure there's something under Antarctica, as I mentioned. But, there's also even mysteries around the knowledge we have of the coastline of Antarctica and the South Pole, both North and South Pole, I should say. We can look at some of these maps like the Perry-Reese map or the Phineas map, and they show a coastline, drawn on gazelle skins from like the 16th century or 17th century. Some of these, again, very old. And they show the coastline of both the North and South Pole very accurately, but underneath the ice, the actual physical landmass. Now, that is not possible. The Perry-Reese map is not possible, as an example, without the use of, at least some type of aerial flight to get high enough to see the coastline.
Right.
And two, some type of ground penetrating radar, right, to distinguish between the mile-thick ice sheet and the actual ground. So the fact that we have physical evidence in our past of these artifacts where the ancients were navigating the coastline, documenting the certain species from various continents. There was transcontinental exchange going on, whether modern academics accept it or not. So all the evidence for me, Jimmy, points to some lost ancient culture, like Göbekli Tepe seems to be something, all right, that springs up, and we're like, well, how can this be? We're going to continue, I think, to find more and more of these ancient cultures. And I think it speaks to, again, this lost cycle of time, that it's not a random chance that we go further and further back, and we're going to find more and more advanced societies.
The thing about the Perry-Reese map, and this is my polluted mind, this is how I look at it. That map was created from something else that he probably saw, which came from somebody else, and it was handed down. That map was generational. It was recopied and recopied. And so I think it was drawn a very long time ago,
and somebody was down there and saw what Antarctica was before the ice. And those maps were, they were treasures between sailors and people that were trying to navigate the Earth, right? And
Yes.
that was privileged information, right? And it was recopied and handed down and so forth. That's what I find fascinating about the Perry Reese map, and nobody really wants to talk about it in those terms. It's not the Perry Reese map, it's where did he get that information from? Trace the lineage back and find out, and then you're going to get closer to the mark, and you're going to find out that Antarctica was different back then, and that the map is accurate. And where did the information come from? And it's something that's just, quite frankly, not discussed.
You're right. And I mean, this is Perry Reese was a Turkish admiral. And so he had a very, distinguished rank that allowed him access to certain privileged information. And so this is something that probably was carried down for many generations. And, the only answer that we can have is that it was given to us by some other source, or it's a much more ancient record where at one time we had the ability that allowed us to see above the earth and have that type of knowledge. And then somewhere along the way, our civilizations have digressed into the dark ages, and we kind of forgot that lost history. But here we have pieces of evidence that still exist that show, no, in fact, we weren't in the dark and do know the truth.
How many times, we're going to be up against a break here in 2 minutes, so we'll pick this up on the backside. But how many times do you think that civilization has come and gone? The Earth is 4.5 billion years old, right? And we're looking
That's a great question.
Yeah, we're looking at us now. If you go from Göbekli Tepe to here, okay, there's 10,000 years. Out of 4.5 billion years, you could put that 10,000 year slice in an infinite amount of spaces throughout history where we could have come and gone, disappeared, overgrown by jungle, buried, turned into oil, right? Recycled through, and then resurfaced again. How many times do you think civilizations have come and gone?
As many grains of sands there are on the beach, Jimmy. At this point, we look at even some of the recorded history we have in some of the ancient Hindu, Mahabharata, and various texts, Mayan texts, Sumerian kings lists even. And we see that the history of our lineage goes back to a time where people in the past lived lifespans that spawned thousands of years. So, I mean, we're talking about a time frame that goes back probably hundreds of thousands of years based on various cultural stories, either, let's say Hindu or even Sumerian as references to some of the ancient, most oldest records that we have.
Why is dogma so ingrained to say, oh, it was fantasy? The Sumerians were just tripping out. The Indians were just fantasizing. This is just science fiction to them.
The simple answer is misunderstanding of information. There's a modern term other than ancient astronaut theory, which is cargo cult, and we can explore it after the break. But basic answer is it's just misidentified technology. Many of the events that have happened in the past, ancients didn't understand technology, and they gave it a spiritual layer to explain it. It's something supernatural. It's a god, rather than saying, well, it's extraterrestrial, or it's something other than we can explain based on our current understandings of science.
Let's take a quick break. When we come back, we're going to finish up our discussion on the lost cycle of time. Our guest tonight is Jason Martell of Ancient Aliens. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. This is Fade to Black on KGRA The Planet and TalkNetwork.com. Back right after this short break.
Way out here, we listen to Jimmy Church.
You're listening to Fade to Black.
Always on the edge of the hottest alternative talk. Jimmy Church with Fade to Black. KGRARadio.com.
¿Qué tal, mis amigos
yo soy Mario Carson, el tiburón, y los invito para que escuchen a mi buen amigo Jimmy Church Radio. ¡Claro que sí!
Ray Sobbs here once again to tell you about the Space and Alien Snowfest Ufology Conference taking place in the ski resort city of Big Bear Lake in sunny Southern California. What a lineup. Richard Dolan, Chase Kletsky, Micah Hanks, George Norrie, Jason Martell, Jimmy Church, Linda Moulton Howe, keynote speaker Stanton Friedman, and more. Along with the speakers and lecturers, join the luncheon hosted by Jimmy Church. See a world-class UFO ET-themed ice sculpture contest with attendees voting the winner. Enjoy the quaint shops, restaurants, and pubs in Big Bear Lake Village, and enjoy some of the best sky watching you can imagine. After the hectic holidays, gift yourself with a retreat the first week of February and come relax with us in a premier ski resort town high in the mountains of the Southern Sierras with an average of over 300 sunny days a year. Take advantage and book your lodging early and get your tickets now. Visit our website and register at aliensnowfest.com. That's aliensnowfest.com.
This is TalkNetwork.com.
Did you ever turn to your radio for your favorite talk show to find that it's been preempted for this?
In the air to deep right center. Back goes Lewis to the wall, and it's out of here!
Or this?
And I'm ashamed of you, Hillary, for voting for it.
Do you have a favorite talk radio program that's not available in your city? Just go to TalkStreamLive.com for links to the best streaming talk radio shows. At TalkStream Live, you will find live talk shows 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. All your favorites are here. With such a large selection, you will also discover some new favorites. On the go and still want to listen? With a mobile smartphone, simply type TalkStream Live on your internet browser. Now you can take internet radio with you. You will also find hundreds of music, news, and sports streams. Best of all, the TalkStream Live directory is free and there's never a login required. Remember TalkStreamLive.com, the fastest route between you and your favorite talk radio show.
You are listening to Fade to Black with Jimmy Church on the Game Changer Network.
Oi, oi, I'm Reese Evans. You're listening to Jimmy Church. This is Revolution. The revolution will not be televised. The revolution is on radio. Ciao.
Welcome back to Fade to Black. Some exciting news out of the UK. Right now, a major project to upgrade the A1 to a motorway in North Yorkshire have uncovered several significant discoveries. This has gone on over the last 2 years. There's 60 people working there on this, and they have uncovered 177,000 artifacts and sieved over 50 tons of sediment samples. They have found Middle Stone Age, Iron Age, and Roman Aged period artifacts. Absolutely incredible. You can go check out the story right now on our Facebook page. It's absolutely incredible. Check out the Roman sword that one of these guys dug up with the sheath and everything. It's absolutely incredible. Jason, I'm looking at these images from the Wandjina, which we're all familiar with, but then you go back and you take a second look. You know, it's not just one image. It's a lot of cave painting that was going on, and they were to go. And this is what's crazy. If you're going to go at that time and take the effort to paint something like this on a wall, you're taking away from hunting for food. You're taking away, providing for your family, doing all of the things that were necessary to survive every single day. And they needed to
get this stuff on the wall, right? It was a significant event because they saw something. And you look at this, it's rather obvious. They were seeing helmeted astronauts. What other explanation could there be for this?
Well, modern academics have a term that's similar to the ancient astronaut theory, which they call cargo cult. And it's a basic way of saying that something that they see that more advanced cultures do, they, kind of adopt. And a scenario took place in Australia in, let's say, World War I, World War II. It probably happened a few times. These Aboriginal cultures all of a sudden are exposed to American troops landing in prop planes. A soldier gets out of his plane and he walks up to a gentleman holding his spear and he lights up a cigarette and the Aboriginal starts speaking to him. And so the guy whips out a voice recorder and starts recording what he says and plays it back to him. And now the Aboriginal doesn't understand. It seems that the soldiers captured his spirit. They look at the plane. They don't understand. And over weeks go by, the soldiers received drop shipments from planes that would, drop them cargo and it parachutes in. Well, every now and then these shipments would land in the middle of the tribe instead of the soldier camp. And the Aboriginals crack it open and it's food and weapons and all kinds of exotic stuff. So
chocolate and gum and fun stuff.
Nudie magazines, right?
Yep.
Who knows? So after a while, the soldiers pack up and leave. And an interesting phenomenon happens, which is they create out of branches and straw perfect replicas of what a prop plane looks like. They scrape away the runways used by the planes and keep them clean and sit there in rows for hours looking up to the sky with their beautiful straw model of what a plane looks like, not understanding how a plane functions or even if it was a physical being.
Right.
But what they're doing is recreating what they saw. And so all throughout history, Jimmy, that's the ancient astronaut theory, is we have visual evidence as well as textual, but the visual evidence clearly shows that ancient man, as you said, steered away from hunting and spent hours documenting sacred evidence for a reason.
They saw something, and these are helmets. That it's obvious as to what this is. I doubt that the drugs that they were taking back then were that good, that they were hallucinating these things or that they were dreaming these things up. No, they were documenting what they saw. And it's absolutely fascinating. What are the dates on these cave paintings in the Blue Mountains?
Those go back to around 12,000 years.
That's insane.
Yeah. And so those Aboriginal cultures have elder stories that they date back to around 60,000 years. But their documented wall paintings have been on record to be around 12,000 years. So it's, it's striking. And I remember a couple of years ago being in Maui, on the island of Maui in Hawaii, and finding some petroglyphs, which is another story that I'll quickly give you the Twitter version of in a second. But these petroglyphs very much resembled some of the same petroglyphs created by these Aboriginal cultures in Australia, yet here they are on Hawaii. So there seems to be a global connection to how they depict at least cultures around those times, let's say 12,000 years ago or maybe even older. A lot of these petroglyphs still survive, and they depict these like large upper body triangular figure. It's like a triangle flipped on its top side as the torso. And you see these beings kind of depicted over and over around the world. Now, funny thing, Jimmy, you'll appreciate this being a host. Walter, my partner, business partner, and I at the time, Walter Cruttenden and I were in Hawaii, and we were doing Coast to Coast with George. And a caller calls in from Maui and says, "Yeah, listen, there's these petroglyphs, down by such and such by this store, and if you meet us here at the food store in the morning, I can take you up." And we're live on the air on Coast to Coast, right? So I'm like, yeah, thank you, sir. That's great of you. Walter goes, great. We'll see you there at 7 a.m.
Did you go? Were those the petroglyphs that you're referring to now?
And they sure are. Yeah. I would have never have just like on chance say, yeah, I'll meet some random dude and go look at petroglyphs. But this guy was right on point. Again, it turns out that the people in Maui are a little closer with the aloha spirit, so it was all good. But yeah, I mean, he drove us up, and sure enough, in this open, it's called Oleon. I forgot the name. I'd have to look it up, but it was a very odd Hawaiian name. But right off this exit where a store is, off the main highway, about a half a mile, where as soon as the mountainsides appear, there's this whole slew of these petroglyphs going up into the mountain range. So it's very intriguing.
We'll see those on Twitter here in a few minutes. Trust me, the audience will be posting those pictures in just a second. I want to get back to the lost cycle of time and also the procession. Do you think that it's out of the realm of possibilities that we were visited and that information of the procession and that 24,000, 26,000 year cycle was given to us, and that information about the wobble and the 72-year 1 degree cycle was just information that was given to us?
You know, I honestly, at this point, Jimmy, I don't think it was given to us. I think it was just learned. And a lot of the things with our past, as far as megalithic structures like Giza or Stonehenge, I really don't push the needle towards aliens rather than us. I say it was more likely us, human beings. And the reason why I say that is simply that the more I look at this lost cycle of time, there seems to be a lot of evidence from these ancient cultures showing us that they were, one, aware of the cycle of time, but two, where they were in the cycle. And most of them said, you know what? We were at our height at a much more ancient time, much further in our past than we're even here today telling you this by how they documented it.
Right.
And they documented it using astronomical markers that we can confirm today.
Yeah, I often say, Jason, nothing is figured out. Everything is taught. In other words, everything is taught. Sumerians, the wheel, okay? No, they didn't figure that out. They were taught that, and that came from someone. And you can go back further and further in time and just, it was taught. It was just handed down from culture to culture.
Wow. Not to interrupt you, Jimmy, but man, you make a great point there, because you're right. Traditional academics say that there has to be some preceding culture to explain why a culture is advanced to the position they're in now.
Bingo.
However, there are exceptions, right? Like Sumer, meaning the Sumerians pop up right out of the Stone Age. Now, if you ask a Sumerian, how is it that you know everything you know, meaning over 100 of the firsts that we have for society, how is it that you know everything you know? Well, the Sumerian tells you everything I know, we were taught by the Anunnaki, those who from heaven come to earth.
Right.
So good point.
Yeah, I was talking about this last night on the show. Well, I've said it a few times. But there is just no way that in 2500 BC or 3000 BC that just one day that one guy looks at another and goes, hey, check this out. Let's go ahead and level this limestone rock, and we're going to build a 42-story building. What do you say? Let's get the guys together. Doesn't that sound like a project? It doesn't work that way. It doesn't.
No, I don't think it does, Jimmy. And so when our modern academics look at, for instance, the Sumerian culture, which is pretty much today's southern Iraq, but around 3800 BC, or roughly 6,000 years ago at its max, the Sumerian culture seems to have a lot of knowledge that literally springs up right out of the Stone Age. There's no preceding culture, yet we attribute them with over 100 of the firsts for a civilization. Things like agriculture, writing, the first systems of law, things like kingship or marriage, music, beer. I mean, we can keep going, but some of the big things that really matter they spawn civilizational concepts that we can trace back to them. And the kicker of this, Jimmy, is that, well, a lot of the things that we have in the Old Testament, the Hebrew Bible, and the New Testament, the New King James Version in English, a lot of these consolidated stories around the flood, Moses, Adam and Eve, we find those original source tales written in Sumer, this original version, all recorded in stone and unchanged, even to this day.
Can you imagine? This is what academia wants us to swallow. That one day a wife comes, into the hut and says to her husband, well, what are you doing? Well, I'm thinking. What are you thinking about? I'm going to genetically modify wheat. That's what I'm going to do at, 4000 BC. Why do you want to do that? Because it'll be easier for us to separate, and we'll be able to grow more wheat, and then we'll be able to make better bread. I got to figure this out. I don't see that happening with the Stone Age guy, but yet it happened. And the only way that happened is because he was told what to do. And there's no other way to accept it. I'm keeping my foot planted on this one.
As well you should, Jimmy. I had to mute my laughter in the background in agreement with you, because you're exactly right. You can literally boil it down to a cartoon strip in the back of the New York Times and humor, that it's really that simple. A lot of these concepts. And so I think it's just a matter of people understanding and looking at the history and seeing how some of these pieces connect.
What's the dating on the Baghdad battery? What are you thinking there?
Yeah, the Baghdad battery goes back to around 2500 BC. And what's really interesting about it is they found about a dozen of them in ancient Iraq. And it seems to be in the same time frame for the discovery of the Dendera light bulb in Egypt. And so if you put together the battery and the light bulb, all of a sudden you have a pretty good power source for electricity 4,000 years ago.
And what else could the Baghdad battery be used for? In other words, an archaeologist is going to come to me and go, dude, it's not a battery. It's fill in the blank.
Yes, of course. Academics today would say that the Baghdad battery allows you to change the chemical properties, let's say for gold or silver, and spray it over a necklace. Or, as a more interesting way, which I still even give credit to, there were a lot of competing churches back in the time of 2500 BC. And so, for instance, in Egypt, you might have a church that you walk into, and what they were able to do is, instead of using a Baghdad battery that's 6 inches tall, maybe have one that's 6 feet tall, a vat full of wine or juice, and they would static charge a whole statue, so that when you'd walk into the church, there would literally be Horus or Isis, and you would see this statue and hear a hum. And if you went over close enough to the statue and were brave enough to touch it, you'd instantly get a discharge, a static shock, boom, and you'd be like, oh, the power of the god. No, it's just a trick. But they would use that to their advantage. So academics accept that they were able to build a static charge up, around a statue, or change the properties to electroplate jewelry and such. An alternative theory is very straightforward. All the tests that I've done for the Discovery Channel, the History Channel, if you take the Baghdad battery, it's a clay pot with a copper lining, a copper lining, and then you put like an iron rod down the middle, and you fill it with any weak acidic acid, grape juice, vinegar, wine. It generates positive electrons. So they had a very simplistic way to store up positive electrons. And it seems that combining it with the Dendera light bulb in Egypt, we have a very easy way to explain how they were lighting a lot of these deep recesses and tombs, for instance, in Egypt, creating, hieroglyphics and wall reliefs where there's no evidence of flame being used. They still can't explain it. That's because they were using light bulbs, but no one wants to accept it.
Yeah.
But anyone can just Google, right, Dendera light bulb and see the evidence for themselves.
Yeah, no soot. I can't imagine how dark it would be going into the recesses of some of those tunnels in Egypt. When you go around a corner, and around a corner, you're in utter darkness. You're in black. You are in the absence of light. Right? Now, if you're going to light that up with flame, especially like an oil lamp, you're going to have soot a half-inch thick all over everything by the time you're done painting or carving anything. And isn't there a general absence of soot through all of that artwork and tunnels?
That's exactly it. And the overriding theory from Egyptologists is, well, they were using torches, or they had, they used copper and would reflect the sunlight using copper and would get it down into the crypts tombs.
Now I need to mute my for laughter. I'm going to use my laughter button.
Right. Exactly.
I mean, it wouldn't even make it around one corner.
Maybe one.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay. All right. You're being nice. You're being nice. It just wouldn't happen. That's it. So now, with the thought of the Baghdad battery, right? The one that you have, that's you have one at your house. I know. It's probably the size of a coconut. Now, what if you had a room full of Baghdad batteries that were 3 feet tall? Now we're talking about genuine voltages, right?
You are correct, Jimmy. And to clarify, the one that I have is just a replica that, based on the same information that's on the internet, I had several of these recreated to spec on the ones we found in Iraq, and testing those, they do seem to hold up. But you bring up a good point, which is the Baghdad battery was found in Iraq, but all over Egypt are these similar things that you could say look like a Baghdad battery, but instead of being 6 inches tall, are 6 feet tall.
Right.
And so instead of 4 volts, which was I got 4 consistent volts on a 6-inch battery, how about a 6-foot battery? What do you get then? 50, 40 volts?
Right. And a room full of them.
40, 50 volts, excuse me?
Yeah, exactly. And then have a room full. Like I said, you'd be dealing with genuine voltages at that point. And the technology for 2500 BC in this 3000 BC boggles the mind. And they didn't dream it up overnight. I know I'm running this in the ground. Somebody showed this to them. They were taught. And this technology came from somewhere. It just wasn't, just created and invented on some given day. It doesn't work that way.
No, I think you make a good point. And some of these, again, pieces make a good evidence of a foundation for people to understand. The Baghdad battery is an example. If you understand that a modern day flashlight, if you had a 9-volt battery, that would be sufficient for you to power a flashlight for several hours. And what we're talking about is by a simple set of natural elements: clay, iron, copper, maybe a little rubber to insulate it all.
Orange juice.
And some juice, of course.
Yes.
You're able to generate essentially enough voltage, at least half, to have a modern day flashlight. So that's a sufficient light source to do your work in deep caves and crypts. And that's exactly what we see all over Egypt.
One of the things I want to talk about after the break, I want to talk about the Ark of the Covenant. And a couple of years ago, you were on the show and you brought up some of the research that you were doing on the Ark of the Covenant and the Great Pyramid of Giza and the sarcophagus and the dimensions. And it blew my mind. It was one of those aha moments for me where I was like, we're so close to the fire sometimes that we don't realize some of the evidence that is right in front of us. But this is some of the research that you've been working on. When you stumbled upon that, whether it was you and you collaborated with, it doesn't matter. Did your brain just like blow out of the front of your forehead?
I mean, a little bit, Jimmy. I mean, what we're talking about now in our just previous conversation in the last few minutes is old tech Egyptian. I mean, electricity. Whoop-dee, right? But let's understand that the Egyptians utilizing electricity to light their crypts and tombs, that's low-level tech. They were using much, much higher level tech, it appears. And some of that has to do with the Great Pyramid of Giza and the idea that it wasn't a tomb, but some large reactor, even as Christopher Dunn wrote, right, the Giza power plant. I mean, there's just a wealth of information, Jimmy, to suggest the Egyptians were using and harnessing what we today call subtle energy, but to them in the past might have been something that we have yet to understand. And so, yes, there's a wealth of information that I've been looking into over the last couple of years around the Ark of the Covenant, where it seems to break out a story around some of the key history figures like Moses, the Exodus story, but also understanding that there's a richer history, just like we're told in ufology and not only getting all the answers. There seems to be a richer history around the Ark of the Covenant that I've been looking into, and some of those kind of facts have been unraveling, and some of that has spilled into some of the episodes of Ancient Aliens. Last season, we did an on-camera test at the University of Irvine with myself and a physics professor, Dr. Michael Denon, where we did a life-size replica of the Ark, and with a physicist on camera using voltage, tested some of the ideas about, can the Ark be approached? How would it be able to create an actual arc of energy that would generate a figure? Can it be approached and touched? Could someone, physically be hurt? And so a lot of these on-camera tests kind of validate some of the things that, from a bigger perspective, seem to be tied around a larger story with the Ark and its true origins in Egypt. And so, yeah, we can talk about that. It's a good topic.
Yeah, it's fascinating to me. And it wasn't just, and the Bible says this itself. It's not, this isn't made up stuff. It was used as a weapon. It killed people. You had to be specifically trained to even look at it, right? To know how to handle it.
Yes.
And all of these things are, so it wasn't just a box to hold a couple of tablets. It was used for all kinds. It leveled walls. It defeated cities. It defeated armies. It killed anybody that looked at it. It was a weapon, but yet it was godlike too. As what it's just a bizarre thing. And the fact that it's never been found, and the way that it ended in the Bible, to me, it's like it was on one page, right? You flipped it, and it's never mentioned again. And that's another fascinating aspect of the Ark. Is it lost? Did it ever exist? I believe that it existed, but it's lost. How can something like that significant, just disappear? It didn't. We'll talk about all of that right after the break.
I agree.
Yeah,
yes,
and I'm not gonna let the Great Pyramid go either. We're gonna tie those two together. And our guest tonight is Jason Martell, Ancient Aliens. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. This is Fade to Black, bespoke radio for the masses on KGRA, The Planet, and TalkNetwork.com. We'll be right back.
Hi, everybody. This is Rob Halford, the Metal Guard on JimmyChurchRadio.com.
KGRA Radio. Intelligent talk.
Why do people order Life Change Tea? Because Life Change Tea helps the digestive system. Life Change Tea helps the colon unclog. The tea also helps with high blood pressure, high cholesterol, and many, many other health issues. Life Change Tea also tastes great. And Life Change Tea is not just green tea. Life Change Tea is a unique blend of 8 different herbs that go to town, cleaning your body of harmful toxins, bacteria, and parasites. Our tea is number 1. Are you ready for your life change? Let the tea help you. too. Log on to our online store of helpful products to get your body on track. Log on to getthetea.com. That's getthetea.com. Or you can call us at 928-308-0408. That's 928-308-0408. Not all tea is equal. Read our website of all the factual testimonies that prove that Life Change Tea is working. Health is important, and our quality of life is very important. Don't wait to order. Expect a life change with Life Change Tea at getthetea.com.
Hi, I'm Richard Dolan. When I'm not hosting my radio program, The Richard Dolan Show on KGRA, or writing new books on UFOs, I run a publishing company. I'm proud to say that Richard Dolan Press has published some of the most fascinating books available on UFOs and related subjects. They include Dr. Bruce Maccabee's classic analysis of the UFO cover-up, David Marler's breakthrough book on triangular UFOs, Dr. Richard Sauter's unique work on underground bases, and other classics by Grant Cameron, Chase Kletsky, and Dr. Bob Wood, not to mention intriguing works by Eve Lorgan and Laurie MacDonald that deal with truly bizarre phenomena. I'm proud to publish such high quality and original works, and there are several amazing books about to be released over the next few months. Go to richarddolanpress.com to learn more.
This is TalkNetwork.com.
Did you know that when you're on the road with limited data or Wi-Fi available, you can still listen to every minute of Fade to Black by just calling 605-562-4482. No smartphone, app, or internet needed. It saves your data plan and no extra cost if you have unlimited minutes. Just call 605-562-4482. You can listen to me, Jimmy Church, on any phone, anytime, anywhere. Go Beckley Tappy.
You want to know a secret? I love ponies. I really love ponies. I'm serious. I couldn't stay sane without ponies to brush.
Why Fade to Black? Because you never got that pony, damn it.
This is Fade to Black with Jimmy Church on the Game Changer Radio Network and KGRA, the Global Radio Alliance.
All right, welcome back to Fade to Black. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. Our guest tonight is Jason Martell of Ancient Aliens. Jason and I are going to be at Alien Snowfest coming up in 2 short weeks right here in Big Bear, California. And I'd like to give away some passes right now. Jason, let's take some phone calls.
Sweet.
Yeah, man. And
what is the call-in number, by the way? I know some people wanted to call in.
323-825-5045. 323-825-5045. Good job, Jason. I need a producer here if you want to come in, in the studio live.
I got your back.
Yeah, definitely. 323-825-5045. And opening up the phone lines now. If you'd like to go to Alien Snowfest, give us a call. Ask Jason a question. We'll give you some passes to Alien Snowfest. February 4th. It's coming up. I can't even believe it. It's in 2 short weeks.
It'll be a lot of fun. I mean, it's the first time this event's ever taken place. So, I mean, I know that it will definitely be a great location to have an event like this, not only for the venue itself, but when the lights go down and we're looking at the skies at night, we're talking about unobstructed views of the sky.
Yeah, no doubt. And the lineup of people that is going to be there, you've got George Norrie, yourself, Linda Moulton Howe, Mike Barrer, Richard Dolan, Chase Kletsky.
Yourself?
Well, yeah. And Craig Campobasso is going to be there. Marshall Klarfeld. It's a stellar lineup and an intimate, place to do it at. I can't wait for it. It's going to be awesome.
Yeah, I as well. And unfortunately, if people aren't able to make it to that one, a few weeks or a couple weeks even after that, I believe, is the other expo in Los Angeles. So that will be fun to have a lot of things coming up in 2016, I think, kind of geared towards these topics for people to not only just listen to them on the show or watch them on TV, but make a physical appearance and interact with other people also.
You know, that's the best thing about all of these conferences, especially not only Alien Snowfest and Conscious Life and Contact in the Desert, for example, is that everybody's favorite researchers are there. You can go up and talk to them and ask them questions and hang out, and it's just a vibe. You know, that I think it's just wonderful. You have to go and experience it for yourself to understand what I'm saying, because after every conference, it's like, this is so much fun. You know, you don't want it to end because of the vibe that goes on there.
Yeah, it's definitely a great atmosphere that I'm grateful to be a part of, as I'm sure you are. Contact in the Desert, Snowfest, I hope will get that same energy going for it. And it really has to do with the fans. I mean, it's all about people today, Jimmy, seem to be embracing these topics in a way where it's not a taboo thing or I'm not sure and I want to come check it out. They're showing up to support these topics. Of course, there are some people who still have questions or maybe have a difference of opinion and want to find out, you know, if their viewpoint can be validated. It just seems to be more and more an interesting angle that people are willing to explore based on all the other options available at the time.
Let's go to the phones. Hi, you're live on Faded Black. Say hi to Jason Martell.
Hi, Jason Martell. This is Tammy, Jimmy. I have a question that's always stumped me when I go back on history. In the BC times, it's like Cleopatra was born in, I think, 60 BC, but died in 30 BC. What always confuses me is, why do they count backwards?
The basic answer to that is because there's a breakdown of time between AD and BC. So just think of it as the time of Jesus, right? Right now, we're in, amazing, 2016. So, you know, minus 16 years. If you go back 2,000 years, you're at the AD crossover to BC. And so once you go beyond 2016, it's at zero. Going anywhere beyond that, it now becomes a BC time frame. So when I say 3800 BC, what I really mean is 5800 BC, because I'm essentially taking the 2,000 years, give or minus 2016, for the AD reference, and then saying when it's 3800 BC, I'm saying tack on another 2,000 years to account for the AD time frame. So it's basically just AD and BC. There's a countdown where it hits zero, and we start to count backwards.
Okay, because that has always confused me.
I can see why.
And,
yes.
Thank you, Jason.
Thank you, Tammy. Do you want to go to Alien Snowfest?
I would love to, Jimmy, but right now I don't think I'm going to be able to.
Okay. Well, yeah, I know you're way up on the coast, but thank you for the call,
we're
Tammy.
having a lot of storms, and but I'm going to be down your way pretty soon, so.
Tammy, you know, it's funny, real quickly, you know, whether or not you can make it or not, understandably, because the El Nino stuff is interesting, but I also predict the fact that this is going to allow us to have a snowfest that will be powder rich, but beautiful sunny skies, because that's just how we roll in Southern California.
Yeah, that's exactly how we do it.
You know, Jason, I miss Alaska so much. I left my heart there.
Thank you for the call, Tammy.
Have a good one, guys. Bye.
Good night.
Phone lines are open, 323-825-5045. If you want to go to Alien Snowfest, give us a call right now, 323-825-5045. Now, back to the Ark and the King's Chamber. Let's just start right there.
Basically, Jimmy, the King's Chamber in the Great Pyramid is essentially the same biblical cubit dimensions for the Ark of the Covenant. So what we have is...
Ooh, I lost you, Jason.
Still hear me?
Okay, got you back. Okay.
Wow. Sorry about that.
Yeah, that was weird.
Okay. I have to be careful what I say, I guess.
Yes.
Start that over. when we talk about the Great Pyramid sarcophagus, traditionally it's taught that it's a tomb. I mean, if you Google Great Pyramid sarcophagus, you see a box with a corner chipped off, but does it really look like a tomb? I mean, if we're talking about a pharaoh, that room should be inscribed all over the walls to the magnitude of prominence to that pharaoh. Yet all you see are barren, crystalline, quartz-lined walls. It's almost like it's a large room that would be able to harness large amounts of energy, whether it be electricity or electromagnetism, who knows? But that sarcophagus, as we give it that word, seems to have the exact biblical cubit dimensions for the Ark of the Covenant. A rectangular box that could be just fit right into what we call the sarcophagus. So if you take the Ark of the Covenant and all the visuals, which I've spent quite a bit of time looking at various cultures from Roman, Greek, Hindu, Old Testament, New Testament, various actual physical Bibles that have pictures and how they describe the Ark, as you mentioned, and list physically how it should be interacted with, seem to have a much richer history, where the Ark itself coming out of Egypt could have been, let's call it, a large battery powering the Great Pyramid. And as we've known, all the depictions of the Ark show it emanating bolts of lightning and being able to do something much more otherworldly than we currently understand.
Could the poles that carried the Ark, you bring it into the king's chamber, set it in, and then remove the poles?
Yeah, it looks exactly like that. That it's every depiction that we've seen in artwork across Egypt before the time of the Exodus, mind you.
Mm-hmm.
It shows people holding it, always dressed in a certain magnitude and with two poles.
Right.
So, yeah, that's basically how it was probably lowered into the sarcophagus itself, is through some mechanism that allowed it to be carried and easily transported by two poles, which is what we see over and over in various cultures.
Hi, you're live on Fade to Black. Say hi to Jason Martell.
Is that me?
Yes, you're live.
Yeah, hey. Hi, Jason.
Hey,
hi,
how's
Jimmy.
it going? Hello.
Hey, pretty good. I agree with you completely on the Ark, and I believe it does belong in the coffer in the King's Chamber. I have a complete theory, actually. I've been working on it for 40 years, and from the subterranean chambers all the way to the top, I think I can put it all together. And it's a mind-blowing story, but the problem is there's so much detail, and it takes, about 3 hours just to get the story out,
Well, at least you have a good angle on it, which is probably much better than the traditional view.
Yeah, no doubt. No doubt. Well, you can always send it to me. Email it to me.
I sent Rita a link to a little. I tried to do a bunch of tweets to kind of lay out bullet points. It doesn't really work. It doesn't convey what I'm trying to convey because the wealth of, data that supports these, conclusions. But I'll try and send you some more stuff. I just think this needs to get out. People need to understand, because if I'm right, it changes who we are as a species. I mean, we're just so much more than what we think we are.
What was your name?
Rob. I'm in Florida.
Hey, Rob in Florida. Do you want to come out to Alien Snowfest?
I really can't. I'm busy, Jimmy. I'd love to sometime, though, but it'd be a dream come true. But right now,
Yeah.
Sorry, kind of it.
Well, Rob,
committed,
Yeah, shoot me an email and send it to Rita, and I would like to look at your stuff. I'll show it to Jason.
Okay. Yeah, I think this is an excellent spending. I really do.
Thank you so much for the call, Rob, and I look forward to your email.
Thanks.
Excellent. You guys have a good night now.
You too, Rob. Let's stay on the phones. I'm taking these calls in order. Hi, you're live on Fade to Black. Say hi to Jason Martell.
Hi, Jason.
Hey, good night, or good evening. I should
good
say.
evening.
You mentioned earlier, I think that did you say you were raised a Christian?
Yes, I was.
Okay, so here's what I'm trying to get a grasp of. You've gathered all this information and knowledge. How has it affected your spirituality?
Great question.
A great question. Well, basically, being raised as a Christian, I always looked to understand what it meant to be having the choice to choose a savior. Like, why do I need to have a savior? And so this to me brought up a lot of questions around looking at other cultures. Honestly, as a young child, being faced with some of these questions, I just didn't have the answer. And it took me probably a couple of decades to circle back and have that realization and that connection. While I started to explore under the ancient astronaut umbrella, I became faced with some of these same challenges as a child, realizing that, wow, everything I thought about the ideas put forth in the New King James Version of the New Testament around spirituality, very, very specific as far as character references for Moses or things of that nature, I found that there were actual events and actual places that the Bible referenced that could be found, and that exploring those locations gave a much more colorful and deeper picture into those topics, specifically for, let's say, Mesopotamia, Babylon, and Sumer, these ancient civilizations that predate a lot of the things that modern Christianity were built on. And so for me, caller, ingesting a lot of that information really made me have to self-check a lot of those principles that were baked into the Bible and factor in all the other information that seemed to, again, logically predate the Bible.
And
I appreciate you sharing that.
Yeah, I didn't get your name.
Eric.
Eric, do you want to go to Alien Snowfest?
Yes, I do.
Yes, you do. Okay, Eric, I've got your phone number and area code right here, so I know that you're right here in Southern California. And
yes, I'm close by.
Yes, you are. So, Eric, do me a favor. You can either give me your email right now, or you can write Rita at jimmychurchradio.com, and we'll get you a pass to Alien Snowfest, and then you can come out and hang out with us.
Okay, all right, Rita. Thank you very much.
You got it,
Eric.
Eric.
You're doing a great job, Jimmy.
And we'll see you in a couple of weeks.
Okay, have a good night.
There you go. All right, that opens up the phone lines, 323-825-5045. You want to go to Alien Snowfest? Come hang out with Jason and myself and Rita. Taylor's going to be there, right?
Yes, she will.
Man.
As usually, gathering crowds around her beauty.
Yes, man, I'm telling you right now, it's not going to be a funner time in Southern California than February 4th, 5th, 6th up in Big Bear with everybody. I can guarantee you it's going to be awesome. So now, okay, so back to this. What would be, okay, there's two things that I need to grasp on. The pyramids, I think, are much, 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 much older than, obviously, 2500 BC. I think they were built 50,000 years ago. I have no idea, but the Egyptians inherited that. That's what I think. When Upper and Lower Egypt united, they were given a gift. The pyramids were already there. Now, with the Ark, we don't know exactly, if we follow the Bible, we kind of know historically when it was built, but we don't know about the dating of the Bible, and we can't use that as a historical calendar. So what came first, the Ark or the pyramids, or were they done at the same time?
Well, that's a good question, Jimmy, and I haven't really approached the research from the chicken or the egg syndrome as far as the Ark or the pyramid. But what I have been trying to shed more light into is that there is a clear traced record of history where the Ark of the Covenant doesn't just show up in the Jewish Exodus at the bottom of the mountain where Moses comes down with these commandments and all of a sudden, wow, we have this Ark that he puts them into.
Right.
It turns out there's a much more deeper history around the Ark showing up in Egypt. And so part of bringing the topic to light is understanding that Moses seems to have an alternative name, which could have been one of the earliest dynastic pharaohs of Egypt named Akhenaten. Akhenaten is a character relatively known because his son became infamous or very famous, right? Tutankhamun, King Tut, who died unfortunately very young. But his father, Akhenaten, could also have taken another title as Moses, because he has the same story. He had an exodus from Egypt, and he took his people with him. But along with him, he took the Ark of the Covenant. And so if we look at the Ark as a different thing, meaning if it was some great power source powering the most prolific thing in Egypt, the Great Pyramid, and he left and took that with him, well, I can see how Ramses, whether it be the Ramses first or the second, would come storming after him, not only to take maybe his people, where there's a crossover there, but most likely also the great battery powering the largest pyramid of their time. So there's a crossover of information around Akhenaten and Moses, and both of them having an exodus, and both having a similar lineage and storyline that merged together might be, in fact, one and the same person. And so this is something I'm going to be sharing at Alien Snowfest, as well as Conscious Life and even Contact in the Desert, as I continue to look into these topics and further explore the research.
Now, you know you're going to bump into somebody that thinks they're smarter than you, right? And they're going to come at you. How difficult is it to connect the dots and then, have somebody else come along and say, you know what, no, you're wrong because of this, this, and this?
I'm totally open for it, Jimmy. Obviously, as it doesn't disrupt my lecture or my personal time, I'm open to things being sent to me that contradict what I'm putting out there or shed more light into it. All I'm using, Jimmy, is the available references. And at this point, many of the biblical artwork and sources found in Renaissance times in Greek, Roman, some of the Hindu scripts, some of the things in the Old Testament, New Testament. I've been scouring through Bibles and getting shots of various cultures and how they reference holding and approaching the ark, the actual gear, the chest plate, over and over, the 12 emerald breakdown chest plate, always worn. That's probably some type of radiation blockage.
Right.
There's a similar lineage of events to approach the ark, as you mentioned earlier, but also how you handle it. And yes, not only is it used to maybe power the pyramid, but it's also shown as a communication device to something greater, and also very clearly used as a weapon.
With let me hit you like this. With not only the structures that are in Egypt, but we brought up China earlier, and there are probably more pyramids in China than there are in Egypt. We have the pyramids here in South America and Central America, and they all look similar, and they all have 3 doors, and they all have these similar dimensions and similar heights, and it goes beyond coincidence, but yet these cultures couldn't have communicated with each other, right? And so is there one point source to this information? Was there some architect that was presenting each one of these cultures the designs of these pyramids and the reason to build them?
Yeah, I think there was, Jimmy. And the best answer I can give is, we touched on it earlier, when we look at, Easter Island or Göbekli Tepe, Indonesia, the Bada Valley in Indonesia, all of these remote locations, we're seeing remnants of what they say is a god or something that they point to as the creator of these locations. And they seem to be this very slim statue. Their hands are always wrapped at the waist. In my opinion, Jimmy, they're pointing to a lost race that we would call, as a Twitter version, the Atlantean culture. Because in our past, we have a myth about some Atlantis that sunk and they were technologically advanced. Well, more than likely, they were a global civilization. And this race seems to be the lost remnants when we were in the last golden age that left their mark on all the great ancients that we still have today: Aztec, Roman, Hindu, Sumerian. They all have the same piece of the knowledge of astronomical, mathematical, and architectural data that is beyond them and points to this lost race. And this race, more than likely, wasn't entirely human. They were terrestrial, Earth-based, Terra, but not the same DNA of what we have today.
Does the continental shift play into this too as well? Does it go back to a period when everything was one giant landmass before it broke apart, and that's how the cultures communicated?
In my opinion, it probably does, because based on looking at the Sumerian evidence and the knowledge that they have, if we look at our map today, the continents clearly were all connected at one point, like Pangea. Anyone can look at Australia and South America, and they all just, like puzzle pieces, snap together. So the time frame we were, at one point, Pangea, one landmass, all of that information seems to corroborate the Sumerians, some of these ancient records about how life came into existence. Literally what was based upon in our Bible 7 days of creation, right? The condensed version that we have today of 7 days of creation. Well, the Sumerians have 7 tablets of creation, still in stone, inscribing a much more detailed, colorful reason as to why life came into existence. And part of it involves this other planet and having it smack our Earth and kind of causing Pangea to come into effect. Meaning at one point, Earth was called Tiamat, and this collision with this ancient planet X caused us to become half a planet. Now think about that for a second, Jimmy. Half a planet, meaning at one point we were just one landmass, and if you siphon off all the water, we would be half a planet. All the continents, like the skin of an apple, have moved into the position that they have, but we took a significant hit in the past. And what's really interesting is that all the modern cosmology to explain why we have the asteroid belt, or why, as you mentioned earlier, some of the planets are tilted on their side, can be explained very simplistically by a lot of these ancient cultures, like the Sumerians and their epic of creation.
Man, you just make me just sit here and listen. That's all I do. I'm just sitting here listening. Thank you so much, Jason. I can't wait.
My pleasure.
I can't wait to come and hang out with you up in Big Bear. It's going to be great. And you're absolutely right, because we have Big Bear. 2 weeks later, Conscious Life Expo. A couple months after that, Contact in the Desert. It's going to be a great run over the next few months, and we're going to do it together. And I look forward to all of it. Thank you so much.
2016 is going to be great. Have an excellent night, Jimmy, and I'll talk to you soon.
You got it. Thank you so much. Jason Martell, everybody, Ancient Aliens. That's why I like having Jason on the show. And, I'm not one to cause jealousy or anything like this. But Jason and Taylor and Rita and I, we hang out. And when I sit and talk to Jason, you have to understand something. He is exactly what you think he is. He's just a down-to-earth guy with his feet on the ground, and he's looking up at the stars and just wonders and thinks. And that's how his brain works. You've got to come and hang out with us up in Big Bear and just sit and tell him what you're thinking. Ask him questions. He is a very, 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 very cool guy. And I just thank you so much, Jason. Now, the other thing, poor Jason and poor Giorgio, you have a show like Ancient Aliens, you don't expect it to take off, and it does. Boom. It's 9 seasons later. Dude can't walk down the street now. Neither can Giorgio. It's like that. But nothing is. He's the coolest guy. He's the coolest guy ever. This is Fade to Black. I'm going to take a quick break. When I come back, let's open up the phone lines, and I'm going to give away some passes. You want to go to Alien Snowfest? Give me a call. 323-825-5045. 323-825-5045. Come back after the break. We'll get to some of that news that you know nothing about. We'll talk about whatever you want. And if you want to go to Alien Snowfest, give me a call. 323-825-5045. I'll be right back.
You are listening to my boy, Jimmy Church, on JimmyChurchRadio.com.
Despite popular opinion, reading a book will not make you smarter.
But listening to Jimmy Church will.
Hi, folks. Ray Hobbs here with KGRA to tell you about something very special taking place in February 2016. I'm talking about the Space and Alien Snowfest Ufology Conference taking place at the beautiful ski and snowboard resort city of Big Bear Lake in sunny Southern California. We've got Richard Dolan, Chase Kletsky, Micah Hanks, Jason Martell, Jimmy Church, Linda Moulton Howe, Mike Barra, and keynote speaker Stanton Friedman will be presented a Lifetime Achievement Award. George Norrie and his producer Tom Danheiser from Coast to Coast AM Live will be with us all weekend. After the hectic holidays, gift yourself a retreat on top of the world the first weekend in February 2016 with a one-of-a-kind ufology event featuring some of the top minds in the field. Take advantage and book your lodging early and get your tickets now and register at aliensnowfest.com. I'll be there. Don't miss out.
This is TalkNetwork.com.
Hello, Fadernauts. Are you looking for the ultimate Bluetooth speaker system? Well, check this out. The Studio Dome surround sound system, featuring the Studio Dome 1 SD1 and the Studio Boombox SBB wireless Bluetooth speakers, is the perfect way to get surround sound without all of the cable headaches. With its own hard shell custom carrying case for taking your surround sound experience on the go. Each hard shell case comes packed with an SBB, 2 SD1s, cables, and power. It's just $99. And you use the promo code Jimmy, and you get yourself some free shipping. Once again, Studio Dome brings you the best deal on the net. Anywhere. Just go to the Studio Dome banner, JimmyChurchRadio.com, promo code Jimmy. Go Beckley Teppy.
Erica, Brittany, Gabby, and you're listening to JimmyChurchRadio.com.
It's not a lifestyle we chose. We were born this way. KGRARadio.com.
This is KJCR at JimmyChurchRadio.com.
Welcome back to Fade to Black. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. On KGRA, The Planet, and TalkNetwork.com. You want to go to Alien Snowfest? Give me a call. 323-825-5045. 323-825-5045. Let's go back to the phones. Hi, you're live on Fade to Black. Who's calling? You're live.
Chris.
Hey, Chris. How are you?
Hey, Jimmy. What's up, man?
You're live right now, Chris. You want to go to Alien Snowfest?
Hell yeah. I'm in Orange County in Fullerton, man.
There you go, man. That's just a trip right up the freeway, man. And you're in Big Bear in about 20 minutes. Well,
somewhere there.
Yeah, about 40 minutes. But, all right. So this is what I want you to do, Chris. I've got your number right here. Write Rita. Okay. Rita at JimmyChurchRadio.com. Very simple.
Okay.
Give us your information, and you're going to Alien Snowfest, man. We'll see you in 2 short weeks, and it's going to be great, man. Everybody's going to be there, man. It's George Norrie, myself, Jason Martell, Linda Moulton Howe, Micah Hanks, Richard Dolan, Mike Barra. How cool is that?
Right on. And I have a comment. I'm really big into Bigfoot. So I was living in Southern California. I like to hear some stuff about sightings and stuff around here.
Yeah, absolutely.
So that's all I have to say.
Have you ever seen anything?
No, I haven't. I'm just really interested.
Yeah, I know. We talk about it all the time. And one of the things, and Chris, I'm going to get to these other phone calls, but the one thing, you know, that Patterson film is real, you know, and it just blows my mind. And so I know something is going on, and we're going to get to the bottom of it. I think we're getting closer.
All right, we'll get there.
Yeah, Rita at jimmychurchradio.com. You know what to do. Get it done, and we'll see you in 2 short weeks.
All right, cool. Thanks, Jimmy.
Thank you, Chris. Hi, you're live on Fade to Black. Who's calling?
Hey, Jimmy, it's Fran.
Hey, Fran. You want to go to Alien Snowfest?
Yeah, I want to, but I can't.
Oh, Fran.
But I need a favor from you.
What's that?
Well, I'm over in Spreaker, and Karen and Catalina Mermaid are harassing me to death about going.
Well, so
and I
go.
keep telling them I can't, so I need you to tell them to stop.
Fran. You know, that's because you have friends that want you to go.
I know, and I would love to, but I really just can't. Driving in snow, ice, all that stuff just whacks me out. I can't do it.
Okay. Well, if you change your mind, you call me. Thank you, Fran.
Okay, dear.
Have a good night.
Thank you. Good night.
Good night. Hi, you're live on Fade to Black. Who's calling?
Oh, hey, this is Gavin in Portland, Oregon.
Hey, Gavin, you want to go to Alien Snowfest? Can you make it?
Yeah, I would love to. Thanks.
Okay, Gavin, I've got your number right here. And let's see, Gavin, you know what to do. I'm writing your number down. Write Rita at jimmychurchradio.com. Send us all of your info, and I'll get you a pass. And we'll see you in 2 weeks.
That, man.
All right, Gavin?
Look forward to it.
You have a great night, my brother, and we'll see you in 2 weeks.
Bless you, sir. Thanks.
I'll talk to you.
All right.
Hi, you're live on Fade to Black. Who's calling?
This is Dino. I wanted to offer Fran a ride in my black helicopter, and then we could get her there.
Oh, stop, Dino.
I did want to ask a question though of Jason.
He's no longer with us.
He going off. I thought this was to ask him. Well, I called too late. I was going to ask him what individual changes that he's made in his life relating to all the information he's made privy to putting together this show that he has, Ancient Aliens.
Well, all you got to do is go to Alien Snowfest, Dino.
I can't go. I work this time of year. You know, I really had a lot of fun at Contact in the Desert, but this is my productive time. I don't do traveling in the winter. But lots of people probably want to go, so I'll get off the line. I'm sure some other lucky Fadernaut will be happy to spend time with you because Fadernauts, Jimmy is a blast.
Thank you so much, Dino, and you have a great, safe night.
You're sounding better. Good. Bye.
Hi, you're live on Fade to Black. Who's calling?
Jimmy, it's Gigi.
Gigi, I know you want to go to Alien Snowfest.
Yes, I do. That's why I'm calling, actually.
All right. Gigi. All right, I got you down. You know what to do. Just write Rita, give us your information, and we'll get you all set up.
All right, I'll see you all there.
Man, I can't wait. 2 weeks, Gigi Rabbit in Big Bear. Big Bear better get ready.
Dude, I'm ready right now.
I know you are, Gigi. Thank you for the phone call, brother, and I'll see you in 2 weeks. I'm looking forward to it.
All right, man. You take it easy.
Okay, write Rita right now.
Will do.
Thank you, Gigi.
All right, peace, man.
There you go. 4 people just got passes to Alien Snowfest. You want to come and hang out. It's going to be an amazing time. So, congratulations, Eric, Chris, Gavin, and Gigi Rabbit. You are all going to Alien Snowfest. All right. Let me back up here. I've got to get to some of this breaking news today. And with my little rant at the beginning of the show about the things that you would get arrested for today, it's pretty funny, isn't it? If you think about it. You know, if you were just being a cool parent today, you go to jail. It's funny. All right. The Obama administration is naming a czar. to serve as a point person for the toxic water crisis up in Flint, Michigan, elevating the issue after the city's, let's see here. Hold on for a second. Let me do this. Phone calls are still coming in, and callers, just stay right there. I'll get to you in a second. The Department of Health and Human Services plans to designate Dr. Nicole Lurie, an agency assistant secretary, to lead the federal government's coordinated response as officials at the state and local levels scramble to deal with the dangerous lead levels in city water. And the problem that they have right now is the feds getting involved. The feds only get involved if it's a natural disaster. And now they're saying that this is man-made and the feds can't, that this is a state and local level issue. I call BS on that. The good people of Flint deserve better. And just get it taken care of. Hi, you're live on Fade to Black. Who's calling?
This is Jason.
Hey, Jason, how are you, man?
Pretty good. How you doing?
I'm doing good. You want to go to Alien Snowfest?
Sure.
Can you make it?
Yeah.
Okay, I'm writing it down right here. Jason. Now, this is what you need to do, Jason. Okay, I've got your phone number. I've got it right here. Write Rita, R-I-T-A, at jimmychurchradio.com with your information, and we'll get you all hooked up, and we'll see you in 2 weeks up in Big Bear.
All right, thank you very much.
You have a good night, Jason.
All right, you too.
There you go. Okay, it's that simple. I want the Fadernauts. I want you guys to come and hang out with us up in Big Bear. All right? Congratulations, Jason. You are going to Alien Snowfest. Now, check this out. Is the beginning of the end near? Couple of things happened to old ISIS. Well, apparently, ISIS has now confirmed that Jihadi John is dead. That's right. In the latest issues of ISIS magazine, it's called Dabiq, which means doofus, apparently, confirmed that Abu Mahrib al-Majur, who made headlines around the world as Jihadi John, was indeed killed. He was hit in a drone strike in his car. That's right. And also, ISIS has now cut the salaries of all of their fighters in half. Yes. They sent a memo out. I'm not kidding. They sent a memo out saying whatever you were making at any level in our organization, it doesn't matter who you are now making half. And I can only imagine in that organization, because it's not driven by religion, it's driven by stupidity, that it was the cash money that was causing some of those guys that joined the ranks, and now it's not as fun. And if you think about it, and there were also something about, I was reading today, and it was hilarious. They were giving like $25 a month stipend. You got I think there's a per diem involved too as well that would like go to your wife or one of your kids. It's all been cut off. They're out of dosh. They're out of cash. Iran will get access to $32 billion of unfrozen assets as part of the lifting of the Western sanctions against the country. $28 billion is going to go to Iran's central bank, and another $4 billion will be transferred to the state treasury as the government share of the dosh. Iranian assets worth about $107 billion have been frozen overseas since the U.S. and the European Union issued the economic sanctions against Iran nearly 4 decades ago. Now, something that hasn't been talked about. Last summer, the United States released about $3 billion as a sign of good faith during the negotiations for the nuclear program. Yeah. Nobody talks about that. John Kerry, trying to get guys to sit down at the table, bought their way into it with $3 billion. You don't hear about that, do you? Interesting. Mass media just lets that one go. Nobody wants to talk about that. $3 billion. Oil is now cheaper. Listen to this. Oil is now cheaper than the barrels used to transport it. What are you talking about, Jimmy? I know that's what you're saying to yourself right now. As the price of crude continues to drop through the floor and break through to another level that you and I know nothing about, consumers are getting the break at the pump. I saw the pictures that were flying around in the net today. Somewhere in Michigan, it was like 70 cents a gallon or 49 cents a gallon for a day. Well, right now, oil is worth less than what it's being transported in. The steel barrels that oil is stored and transported in cost anywhere between $55 and $99 a piece. Yesterday, oil closed at $28 a barrel. Today, it was just over $29 a barrel. Is that crazy? Is oil almost worthless? Think about that for a second. Are we at that point? Iran right now is ready. They are back in the game. I had said this a month ago. I said it a week ago. I said it yesterday. We don't have room. We don't have space. We've got oil coming out. It's everywhere. Our reserves are capped off. We're going to be at the point very, very soon where we're going to be turning away tankers. It's like, dude, go back to where you came from. Or you're going to have to pull in here and park. And you're going to sit there until we can offload that oil. It's going to cost more to ship it on an oil tanker than what is on that tanker and what it's worth. Isn't that nuts? It kind of makes you think for a second that maybe all of this $108 a barrel, $132 a barrel, that frightening period that we went through, it was all fictitious. It was all created. Because here we are today. The world's going to have to stop pumping it. It's going to have to stop pumping it to get caught back up. To elevate and jack up the price, there's going to have to be some big, big changes, and nobody wants to do it. The world economy and the petrodollar drives and runs forward by pumping oil out and selling it. And right now, we just don't need it. It's crazy, isn't it? What do you, I was looking today at different prices around the country, and before we get out of here, just for grins, I want somebody, Steve just posted, I got a few hundred of those 55-gallon drums, and I would like to get $50 a piece for them. Yeah, well, there you go. What are you guys paying for gas right now? And as crazy as that sounds for you guys around the country, I'm serious, here in California, it hasn't hit us yet. We're still paying $2.79, $2.89, $2.99, over $3 a gallon here. There is no, I was at Costco a couple of days ago. Costco gas, Costco right now, $2.65 for regular, $2.85 for premium here in Southern California. So we're not feeling it yet. A friend of mine in Indianapolis posted, he said that his to fill up his car last year it was $80, right? And now with his Kroger discount, I think that's what he said, 50 cents a gallon or whatever, he can fill up his car now for like $10 or $12. And that's where we are right now. We don't feel it. We don't feel it here in Southern California. So you guys enjoy it. Gigi He's at $1.78 a gallon in Austin, Texas. God, that is just crazy to me. Let's see. Tammy in Oregon, $1.97 a gallon. Les out in South Carolina, $1.93. Chicago, George says it's $2 a gallon right now. But here we go. Bob just had to do this. $1.45 in Northwest Ohio. $1.97 a gallon in Florence, Oregon. Unbelievable. Let's see, $21.85. What was that to fill up? Was that to fill something up? Man, that is just trippy to me. If gas was that cheap, you remember those days when you would just you'd fill up, fill it up. But I know how it is. Look, man, I know how it is. You got to go in, and to fill up, it's $80, $60. So you walk in and you just do just enough to get you by, $10, for a couple of gallons of gas, because you just get $80. It's just too much. So, $3.01 here in Granada Hills. John Murphy, where's that at? In New Hampshire. $2.30 for 93, $1.78 for 87 for Regla. Yeah, unbelievable. It's unbelievable where it is. $1.56 in Shreveport, Louisiana. Wow. And there's another New Hampshire at $1.86. Unbelievable. Hey, good times are here again. And in my opinion, in when they're talking about the economy and the New York Stock Exchange and everything else, no, in my opinion, all this does is help the economy. People drive places. People have extra money to shop. It helps everything, doesn't it? This is good. Somebody was here on the local radio the other day, was talking about the Obama speech. I'm not going into politics, but that the economy was great, and that Walmart, that was wrong. It was incorrect, because Walmart just announced that they were closing 239 stores, and 2 of them just closed here in L.A. yesterday. Well, I disagree, because if you dig deeper into that story, Walmart also announced that they were opening 300 stores. Okay? They were closing down the less profitable, smaller stores, the satellites. But the big ones, no, they're still building, and they're not stopping. So, $1.89 in Medford. Oh, you guys enjoy it. Gas was 59 cents a gallon in 1975. It looks like we're going to see 99 cents a gallon here in a couple of days. Just hold your breath, and you're going to wake up one day and you're going to find out that we're going to be sitting on 99 cent a gallon gas. Wow. I remember the turn. The turn was in 2005, and I remember going out. I was driving a long ways to work each day, 20, 25, 30 miles from the valley down to Redondo Beach. And there was a gas station right next to the audio place where I was working. And I remember it was $1.99 a gallon. And then in like a matter of weeks, it went to $2.38. That was in 2005. And then it went over $3 a gallon later on that year. And we have, here in Southern California, we have never looked back. This is 2016. It has been a long, long time. Here in Southern California, you guys don't get it. Here, we kissed $5 a gallon last summer. $5 a gallon. It was out of control, and we stayed at for probably pretty good solid 2 straight years here of $4 a gallon gas. That's where it sits, and right now we're still there. We're still at $3 a gallon. So you guys just enjoy all of it. Yeah, Thought Shifter just said 50 cents a gallon in parts of Michigan. Yeah, I saw those posts today. I saw that 49 cents a gallon, and they did that for a day. Will it stay? Will it go? I don't know. But absolutely cool. That's all it's going to do is elevate everything. Oh, sorry about that. That I didn't cough for the entire show, and that just came out of nowhere. Sorry about that. One of the things that I wanted to mention to Jason, and I didn't get quite a chance to get to this, and you've heard me talk about this before, so I'm going to close out the show on this. Jason talks about the lost cycle of time and lost civilizations and civilizations that are missing. It's one of the most fascinating things to me. And the method of knowledge is transferred. People are taught. Somebody teaches you something. You don't just wake up one day and create. No, you taught, you ripped off, you copied, you learned from a predecessor. You saw something. You were taught something. That's how things go. And in the middle of Egypt at 2500 BC, 4,500 years ago, somebody did not just turn to somebody else and go, dude, check this out. We're going to level the ground right here with huge stone slabs. Some of them are going to be 50 tons. And let's level it perfect. Well, what do you mean level? It's going to be flat. What's flat? Flat is flat. And we're going to orient it to the 4 cardinal points. What are those? Well, due north. What is that? What do you mean? We're going to do that to the 4 cardinal points. And then we're going to carry 130 red granite blocks over 500 miles. And each one of those blocks is going to be between 12 and 70 tons. And as we build this building that's going to be 42 stories tall, we're going to build a chamber on the inside of it out of those red granite blocks when we're halfway up. And after we build this 42-story building, we're then going to cut 300-foot passageways through it, perfectly, utterly straight, up 16 stories to that chamber that we're going to build out of the red granite. What are you talking about? Yeah, we're going to do that. And then we're going to carve and quarry 2.4 million pieces of stone. And each one of them is going to be a different shape and a different size, but we're going to make them all fit together. And we're going to build an 8-sided pyramid. What's a pyramid? It's this new thing. I just thought of all of this. That's not how it went. Somebody showed them how to do it. Not the Egyptians. Somebody else much, much older. That's how life works. And this is Fade to Black. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. Tomorrow night, right here, Chris Medina. He's a psychic. And there is a William Bill Cooper connection. Oh, you're going to want to be here tomorrow night. Congratulations to Jason, Eric, Chris, Gavin, and Gigi. You're all going to Alien Snowfest, and we'll see you in 2 short weeks. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. Very special thanks to Jason Martell. Fade to Black's executive producer is Rita Kamarian. Show is produced by Hilton J. Paul, Mark D. Kovar, LJ3, Renee, Mark Dunbar, Jonas. Thank you, Bob. Thank you, Dennis. Announcers are Steve Harder, Gene Vito, and Mark D. Kovar. Fady by Dale. Webmaster is Drew the Geek. Music, Doug Aldrich. Intro, Spaceboy. SpaceboyMusic.com. Fade to Black is produced by KJCR for the Game Changer Network. Syndication is KGRA, The Planet, and TalkNetwork.com. Tomorrow night, Chris Medina. This broadcast is owned and copyrighted 2015 by Fade to Black and the Game Changer Network. Cannot be rebroadcast, downloaded, copied, or used anywhere in the known universe without written permission from Fade to Black or the Game Changer Network. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. Follow me on Twitter at JChurchRadio. Be safe. Go Beckley Teppy.